BruCast is back, baby.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of BruCast, episode number 7. And it's been a while since the last episode, but there's a reason for that. If you look behind me, look at this beautiful wall, this beautiful wooden wall. I've been I've been working on it. I've been improving the scenario, the background. Got some feedback on it, and as you can see, it took a long time because I live under this weird roof. I think in German they say Dachgeschoss, and I had to cut everything this weird angle. It took a while, but besides that, we also have a new neon sign. Yeah, with the BruCast logo, the little lightning bolt. And yeah, things are getting better here. But that's not the only news for today. We also have a sponsor. Now we have a space dedicated for sponsors. How good is that? So let's dive into it. So before we dive into today's episode, I have some big news. We have it. Yeah, okay, already. I'm reading the text, guys. 1 second. Give me. All right. So The Right Frame. The Right Frame is a side store that I created on my free time to help support the channel. It's a small, humble store that I've been pouring a lot of passion into it recently. So what it is? The Right Frame is a premium art print online store selling high quality and exclusive art pieces for a fair price. By choosing a piece of art that speaks to your personal style, you'll be able to create a space that truly reflects who you are. Whether you're looking to add a pop of color to a neutral room, or you want to create a focal point in your home or office wall, the Right Frame can make all the difference. With the wide range of styles and subjects available, it is easy to find the perfect piece of art to suit your taste and color. The Right Frame collection is created exclusively for the Right Frame store by established and emerging artists. By purchasing from the Right Frame, you support not only my passion for painting and the growth of this channel, but also an art community which values creativity, excellence, and collaboration. I'm personally impressed with all the other pieces I've acquired so far from our store, and I highly recommend the Right Frame to anyone looking to add some art piece to their home, office, or living space. It also makes a perfect gift for art lovers. Whether you're looking for a birthday, anniversary, or holiday gift, you find something perfect for it. Buy now high quality and exclusive art pieces for a fair price at the Right Frame. And by doing so, you support the growth of this channel and an art community which values creativity, excellence, and collaboration. The website is society6.com/the right frame. I repeat, society6.com/the right frame. Follow the Right Frame on Instagram at the.rightframe. I repeat, at the.rightframe. All links on the description below. Thanks for listening. All right. So that was our sponsor. Thanks, The Right Frame. And for today's episode number 7, we have a guest, as always, and today's guest is a good friend of mine. His name is André, and let's bring him in. Hi, André.
Hi, Bruno. Honored to be on Bruno's Art and Home Improvement podcast.
Thank you very much, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a good couple of days since I've moved down here back to Allgäu, German mountains. It's been fun.
The mountains.
Right, the mountains.
All right, so
cold in the mountains right now.
How much it is?
Oh, it's been last couple of days. We're still in the minus, like -5 Celsius in the night. It's not that cold. Used to be colder.
That's amazing. So before we dive into it, I just noticed that I wrote a short introduction for you. 1 second.
Okay, cool.
André is a German game engineering student currently working as a freelancer in the game industry. He's a huge fan of SpaceX and space exploration, retro gaming, and also speaks Latin.
Used to. Not anymore. Not ever since 11th grade. All that's gone out of my head.
So you learned it in school.
I had to. I didn't. Wasn't voluntary, sure as hell. But my choice was between French and Latin in sixth grade, and for some godforsaken reason, I chose Latin,
Why?
and that didn't. I have no idea, and it didn't work out at all. If you tell me to learn something I don't want to learn, I'm not going to learn. Period. And I
Mm,
tried hard. I at times I really tried, but didn't work, and that was that. So I had to repeat sixth grade, and then my choice was again, okay, am I gonna switch over to French or am I gonna stay with Latin? I
mm-hmm.
didn't want to switch over because I didn't know if French could possibly be even worse. So I stuck with Latin, and that was tough 6 years,
So you
all the
stuck
way up
with
to
the
11th grade.
so you stuck with the dead language instead of French.
I don't always make the best life choices. Let me tell you, there are a couple of times in my life where I just where my brain just decided to actively choose the worst choice possible.
I mean I cannot judge you. I moved to Germany, so
Oh yeah.
with the intent of learning German.
Oh
So
boy.
I
Okay.
understand you. I
Well,
understand you.
yeah. All right. Yeah. Welcome to the bad choices club. Our soul searching community here for people.
I feel you. Oh, all right. So you're talking about the mountains, right?
The mountains, right?
So that's where you live actually in the mountains of south of Germany, right?
Right. The southern mountains, the Alps. I was born here, raised here, grew up here.
That's so I researched a little bit. You sent me the document, of course, with some
Right.
of your information, and I researched in Allau and Altstetten. I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Nope. Allgäu. Allgäu. But it's a weird word even here in German. It's no idea what it's even supposed to mean. And Altstetten. Altstetten, you actually got that pretty right.
Altstetten, and it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful.
It
I
is.
saw.
Well, it can be in the summer, but there's also like 200 days a year where it just rains because we're on the wet side of the Alps, our mountain range, and sometimes it just decides to rain for like 5 weeks. That's fun.
5 weeks straight. Oh,
5 weeks straight, yeah. And it often does that during summer, during the summer break. So all the school kids are just stuck at home. And if it stops raining, it suddenly turns the heat up to like 38 degrees. It's wild.
this is an intense place, man.
Seriously, especially in terms of temperatures, because you're currently living in Gütersloh, and one thing I've noticed, the temperatures, it never really gets too cold, or it never really gets. Oh, it got hot for a couple of days, but not that hot, and that's because you're still decently close to the sea. Right here in the Alps, you've got all this land between us and the North Sea, and so it's just in the winter it goes all the way down to minus 25 degrees Celsius, and in the summer it goes all the way up to like 38, 36, 38. It's wild.
I would say is the payoff for living in such a beautiful place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there are a couple of other things that can annoy you. The rain's one thing, the weather. Then there's of course the tourists. That's always a thing. Because during summer and winter it just gets clogged up here, especially since we only have one rail line leading into our region and very few streets, none of which are built for mass transit. So it just gets clogged up. It's insane if you just see these thousands of cars just lined up. Right, and it doesn't even especially during winter, it doesn't even really take snow for these people to already come, because we have these, I don't know what you call them in English, but basically these snow machines on wheels, these massive things that you know uh, create snow for all the skiing resorts and all that. And the second there's the tiniest bit of snow at the top of the mountains, these guys just drive through the entire trek, and so you just have these skiing lanes going down the mountain
Yeah.
is the only bit of white, and already we have like thousands of tourists flocking to the mountains. It's wild.
Do you go skiing a lot, or you're
I
more on
used to. I
snowboards?
used to. There's a fun story of that. I used to love skiing,
Mm.
and then I failed to brake right at the bottom of the skiing thing, and I just drove right into my father and broke his leg.
How nice of you.
Yeah, that was really cool of me. I could have swerved to the left or the right and just missed him and drove into a bush, but nope, I decided straight at it and broke his leg. That was cool.
I'm sure he was very happy, very,
He
very
was
proud.
really happy, especially because he did Taekwondo before, a fighting sport, and he was like double or triple black belt, and then he couldn't do it anymore.
Fuck.
Good
Like
job, Andre.
for the rest of his life or just for a while?
I think it would have been for a while, but he basically said it's not worth it anymore. I think for a while after he still felt pain if he exerted himself too much, and so he just decided to stop doing that.
So that was the last time that the family went skiing together, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the others still went, especially my father.
Mm.
He loves doing that still. But I decided I'm too dangerous to be skiing. I'm I'm a loose cannon. I'm
They
better off in my room.
they have a sign in the ski resort, like of your face and a
Right,
cross.
right. No, Andre. Andre's not allowed here. Too many broken bones. Too many insurance claims. No, no more. Uh,
So that's winter. You guys go
right.
skiing or are used to, right? And
Yeah. Well, there's what's the other thing called? Rodeln in German. Don't know if you know the word bobsledding or sledding. Just sledding down the mountains. I still do
mm,
that. That's
mm.
that's a ton of fun too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, so yeah, you live in a beautiful place, and
Yeah.
I guess do the tourists when you're younger used to go to the school like with just trying to navigate through the tourists, right? Just
Yeah.
punching all of them.
More or less. Seriously, some of the months, especially like December, January, and August, are just wild. It's insane,
Hmm.
right?
So yeah, yeah. So I kind of have more or less an idea on how it is because I think I told you I also lived in the Alps.
Right. Yeah, you told me.
That's a crazy coincidence. Yeah. But I actually lived in the French, like the Alps. For those like who don't know, it's this mountain chain between France and Italy, but also covers a little bit of Germany. And I'm not sure, but I guess it reaches a little bit of Switzerland.
Switzerland's basically covered by the Alps. It's Germany,
Okay,
Austria, Switzerland, Italy, part of Croatia.
all right. So you live more in the German between German and Italy, like
No,
does no
it's so right to my south be Austria, and I'm
or Austria?
basically
Yeah.
in right down at the bottom in that small out curve there with Austria
Mm,
basically surrounding us,
mhm.
right, right at the bottom.
I lived in a actually not even like near the Alps, but actually in the Alps themselves in a
Oh,
small ski. I lived in the ski resort
oh wow,
called
okay.
yeah. It was really really intense. Like it was called Les Ors. That's the French accent, Les Ors.
So okay,
Yeah. And as a kid, I used to get the bus like 5 a.m. full of snow everywhere, and the bus would just drive down the mountain every single day, the snowy mountain, like the zigzag. And I was just like a
right.
happy kid, listening to my iPod at the time. And now that I'm a grown up, I realize how fucking dangerous this was. Like every single morning, those crazy bus drivers going so fast.
Yeah, yeah. Mountains can be dangerous, especially we have a couple of those weird curvy passes up the mountains as well, and especially for motorcycles, that's a death trap more or less. You
Mhm.
constantly hear stories about cyclists just getting hit by a car, and that's yeah, that's really dangerous. But while you were up on the mountain, you had like electricity and everything, right? And water,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Because we don't really have cities up on mountains or proper buildings because it's more like just farmer stats and all that. And of course, those don't have electricity, no running water. That's
What?
yeah, yeah. And some people just I don't know if they still live there because for a lot of those they're open during summer and you can like eat there or just have a rest there while you're just wandering across the mountains. Actually, yeah, I know some people actually live there for like half the year. They also have their cows up there, of course, and then just spend half the year up there and then the rest of the year down here in the village.
But it's really like at the top of the mountain, right? Really high.
Close,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And they usually
But
just with a single tiny road leading up.
so yeah, I was not living that.
No, not
Uh,
that remote. Okay.
but I would be honest with you, man. I think it was one of the like most how can I put it, like not best days, best months of my life, but it was definitely the most chill one. Everything's so calm, and one thing that I remember in particular, the air,
Right.
so I envy you a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah,
The
there's
this
a couple of advantages. It really is. It's just calm. The nature. I mean, having lived in Gütersloh for half a year
Yeah.
now, I can really appreciate just having nature all around you and having all these opportunities. Just go skiing or whatever. It's yeah. Of course, the people. It's village life. I'll say sometimes it can be a bit. You know, if you
You
don't do
have
the part, they'll make you feel excluded. But you can find your group. It's fine.
internet, man. You have all the
And of course, right. That's but that took a while. We only have proper internet for like 6, 7 years. Before that, it was 700 kilobytes at most, and that was it. Just copper lines basically everywhere. But I think that was most of Germany actually, because yeah, the internet infrastructure in Germany is a topic in itself. It wasn't great up until recently, but we're getting there slowly, very very slowly.
It depends. If you use Vodafone, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We also would have actually. I've left for like I was gone for 6 months, like I said, and when I came back, we suddenly had a gigabyte internet, and I'm actually receiving a gigabyte. We had 100 megs before.
What?
They
What?
apparently just upgraded us for free. I have a
Liar.
gigabit now somewhere in the middle of the fucking mountains in my small village. I now have a gigabit internet.
I don't
I
believe
didn't
you.
have a third of that in Gütersloh. I have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
Dude, I live like in the center, right, of the city here in
Yeah.
Gütersloh. Like fucking center of the city. When I moved in, there was no internet. It was like I'm not cheating you. It was like a day go. I don't know how to put it. I was going to Vodafone shop like every single day to
Yeah, I heard.
complain. What about my? Did I told you that?
Yeah, I
You
heard
remember,
Jonas
right?
told me a bit about it. Yeah.
Fuck, man. They had to send like a guy like 3 times in a row to scan the building and finding the infrastructure of the building, like drew holes into my bedroom just to install the internet cable. There was no internet. I live in the fucking center of the
Oh
city.
God.
Oh
Okay.
man,
Wow. I at least
yeah.
had wireless, but our wireless was awful, and of course no
Mm,
cable. But at least I had something. I didn't know we still have buildings that had absolutely nothing. That's wild.
it is.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. So you basically grew up in how do you say again the name of the city? Allgäu.
Altstetten. Allgäu is the region.
Altstadt.
Altstetten is the city, right? Yeah.
All right. So you grew up in that region. So it's a region very close to Munich and the Oktoberfest, right?
Right. Yeah. But it's like there's half a world between our place and Munich. It's very you get a lot of tourists from there, of course, but it's still, especially culturally, but even the language. We speak a completely different accent here in the region. And it's
Really?
just, yeah, because, well, basically we're really separated up until like 70 years ago. There was barely any infrastructure here. So it's basically a world between us and Munich. It's really different.
So let's say when you want to do like big city activities, where do you go?
Uh, well, it's basically a chain of cities that you can move up to. The closest big city, but big only in my terms would be Kempten.
Camp it.
But
Okay.
Kempten is only, I don't actually know how big Kempten is. It's not that big, less than 100,000, I think. And then it's Augsburg, which is a decently sized big city, and from there it's Munich.
All right. Okay. Man, I just remember something. Sorry. Some time ago, you mentioned about not having current water, and electricity.
Yeah,
And I was just watching on YouTube some days ago the coldest the coldest place on earth, like Siberia, and how the people in a city nearby this region lived. Like they had no, like I said, they had no current water, no I think they had electricity, but they had like different ways of like to have current water. So they would store those big blocks of ice.
right.
Did you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I've heard of it. Yeah, because they also can have groundwater pumps because the ground's frozen most of the time. So they
Yeah,
store like these ice blocks in reservoirs or something.
it's so interesting. And then the
Yeah,
little kids to brush his teeth, he would just put like they would heat up the block of ice to make it into water, and then they would pour into like a funnel on top of the sink, and this funnel would drop the water slowly so the kid could have time to brush his teeth, and that's how they would do everything with
yeah.
water related. It's crazy.
That is crazy, and I wouldn't want to live there. Seriously, I can go for a couple of weeks without water and electricity, just living up there on the mountains with a friend or something. That's fine, but I
No
mean,
Siberia.
it's no Siberia, no, please.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Another detail that I remember now, the kid would have to walk to school, right? They had no
Right.
school buses. And the mother would, she told to the cameraman, "Oh, I'm always so afraid for my little boy that he might die on his way to school, because if he loses his way, they just die. There's a time limit that they can stay outside, right? I don't know, half an hour
Right.
after that you start, like, your clothes doesn't they don't work anymore." And the
Yeah.
mom was like, "I'm so worried he might die today, but it's life."
That's very Russian, yeah. Seriously, yeah. I don't know what compels people. I mean, if they can't leave, that's one thing, but I wouldn't know what compels people to live there voluntarily. Because there are some people that do it voluntarily, especially in northern Canada. You have these cities up around the Hudson Bay, I think it's called, up there, where people just, I guess, live for the fun of it. I wouldn't do that.
Come on, I guess it's they were just born there, and that's it.
Probably, yeah.
All right, so then you went to the game engineering university in Campton, right?
Right. Yeah. That's after school. That's what I did, and wasn't the easiest choice, but basically for
Why?
the last like 3 years of school, my dad constantly asked me, Andre, what do you want to do when you're done with school? And I had no fucking idea. So I constantly just deflected and said, "Oh, I'm gonna worry about that once I'm done with the Abitur." I don't know if which school system did you grow up in?
It depends. So I until high school it was in France, and then and then I did the high school and university in Brazil.
Okay, right. Because in Germany we have this, or at least here in Bavaria, we have this very strict three-tiered school system, basically, where there are three different tiers of secondary schools, and depending on which one you go to, you basically no, you can go to university on each of these, but it becomes more difficult. Let's say there are different paths. But if you finish the basic education, at least here in Bavaria, you don't actually get to go to college or university.
You
Need
don't
to
have a
get what's
choice.
called, yeah, you need to get what's called Hochschulreife, or something to that degree. And in Bavaria, that basically means getting the Abitur. So that's your big final exam where you And there are very different paths for basically all 3 tiers to get to that point. But I went to the highest tier and then just straight up went my 13 years to the Abitur. And then, right, I eventually had that Abitur and then I could no longer deflect. So I got my Abitur, I held a piece of paper up to my hand, went into my room, just literally laid down on the ground for a few minutes, just stared at the ceiling and thought to myself, God damn it, what the fuck am I gonna do now? And then I decided, okay, I don't want to move too far away yet. I'm just gonna see, okay, do we have colleges around here? Okay, we have one in Kempten. Then just looked at all the studies they offered and basically crossed out everything that I don't want to do. So no tourism, no social. I'm not good with machines and all that. Crossed that out. So by the end, it was just basically IT or game design or game engineering. And I decided I'm not good with maths, so game engineering it is. And that was that.
So it was by elimination.
But yeah, it was a process by elimination, basically. Just desperately trying to avoid the things I'm not good at. There are a lot of things I'm not good at. but basically, it was funny too, because as part of the German Abitur, you actually get to do programming for a bit. So in 10th grade, we had programming. And we did Java programming at my gymnasium, and it was awful. We had a new teacher first year.
It was awful.
It was genuinely awful. Yeah, new teacher first year, and he had no way to explain these complex programming paradigms to us.
And then you became a programmer.
Yeah, at the end of that year, I said to myself, I'm never gonna program. That's a type of black fucking magic that I don't want to touch. I'm never gonna do it. And anyone who knows me well knows that whenever I say I'm not gonna do something, there's a 100% chance that I'm gonna end up doing it.
Like the podcast.
Like the fucking podcast. Like I said. It was funny too, because back in like 8th and 9th grade, I always wanted to go into sciences, like biology, physics. That was before I realized that I'm really fucking awful at math. I wanted to go into biology was the big thing, and I always said, "Oh, look at these people that are only good at art or music. Look at these noobs. Here I am with my biology ambitions. I'm gonna discover biological immortality. Look at me." Well, now I'm writing and drawing and doing game engineering, and that's my life. That's me just, seriously, me just saying I'm never going to do something, and then I'm end up doing it anyway, like 2 years later.
Hey man, as long as you're having fun, that's
I'm having fun. It's a blast. I'm glad I opened up like that, and biology would have been fun too, but this is infinitely more fun. Seriously, this is great. I mean, just my time here in Gütersloh at Gaming Minds, the corporate culture, everything. It's great.
Yeah, that's something that I also wanted to point out. You're doing an amazing job, man. Every day I just open my Jira and I see André just closed 27 bucks this morning. Like, whoa!
I have the complete opposite experience. Every time I open my emails in the morning, Bruno has assigned you 20 new bucks. Have fun, asshole.
I assign it to you because I know. So for those who do not know, we work together during André's internship, and I do assign a lot of bugs to him because he does a fucking great job.
I'm the only one who gets it done. If you assign it to any other program, it's just gonna sit there for like a month.
I'm not saying that, but
it's true.
You're kind of fast, so
I am fast. I'm not accurate, but I'm fast. If it looks halfway decent, if it crashes the game, that doesn't matter. It looks good. Send it off. Done. Good. Next task.
So talking about games, you sent me some of your oh my god, 1 second. My microphone is trying to kill me. So you sent me some of your older projects.
Older, yeah. They're first and second year. No, first and third year. Wait, which one did I include? I don't remember this stuff. I don't remember myself as a person. But I think it was
What?
first that it's ADD. You wouldn't get it.
We will talk about it. So,
You're
do you
gonna
mind
talk
if
about it, right?
do you mind if I share on the screen?
Sean, yeah, sure.
All right. So one
I
second.
don't think they're that interesting. Right, that was third year, I think. That was graphical. What was it called? Graphics something. Where you basically learned OpenGL, we learned shaders and all that. So this is a ground up application basically. In terms of coding, it's not that difficult. I implemented some basic form of Newtonian physics, but it's not that interesting. And the control system and collision detection, as you can see, is not all that great. But the main thing here is the graphics. So it's basically ground up with OpenGL from the bottom up. If you've never programmed with OpenGL, this probably doesn't sound that impressive, but you basically have to write shaders for everything. So you see these planets, they actually have textures. It doesn't come out that well in the video, but if you want to implement textures, you actually have to write a shader that extracts the texture. Basically, you have these UV coordinates. Maybe you know about UV. You basically have a coordinate system on your texture, and you need to get each coordinate and then apply it to some point on, for example, here the sphere, and then do that. Then you need to place these elements. You need to somehow have interaction between these elements, and from the ground up, basically, that's what I did here.
I mean, is it playable? So I'm not sure how the gameplay goes. So you are you are controlling the spaceship, I guess.
Right, it's a copy of Space War. So theoretically, it's a two-player game. The big problem is the program only accepts input from one source at the same time, or from one key. So the winning strat is just to hold down space and shoot infinitely, and the other person can't do anything. It wasn't part of my module to make a good game. It was just to do something, and that's basically what it is, right?
Well, it's something for sure.
It is something, right? And it's a copy of Space War. I don't know if you know Space War and the whole history behind that.
I know Space Force, but not the history behind it.
Right, it was one of the first video games. It was written. It was written to run on one of those radar screens, those big radar tubes.
All right.
Right on the PDP one. It's actually really cool. To skip in some.
So for those who are just listening, we're watching a guy in a museum showing a big fucking ass old computer. I would say from when? It's like, I have no idea.
Oh, it was 60s. Yeah, I think it was 60s.
And I would say this is not even designed for games. Like
no, this is right. There's a radar scope, so it's only meant to. Oh, it's a phosphorus, whatever you call it. So it was initially just intended to display radar information. Like you had these sweeping radar things with the dots, and some programmers just had too much time on their hand and decided to do something else with it. And that's how video games started, or at least because this is a graphical demo. They just wanted to show off what they could do with this sort of technology.
That's kind of impressive. I would say I don't know nothing about programming, but I would say this is kind of hard to program, right?
I don't. It is definitely hard because first of all, you didn't have digital code. I think all of this was written on punch cards. So that's a lot of work. I think the algorithms behind it aren't that difficult, but it's definitely. I mean, especially for the time, yeah, it was. Probably took a lot of work. Took him a ton of time, I believe. That's how this whole industry got started. Just a couple of guys messing around with a phosphorus screen.
It's kind of psychedelic, also.
Yeah, especially because you have this afterglow, because it takes forever for for the phosphorus to, or for the screen to go back to black.
Oh, man,
You have to skip forward.
Imagine having a smartphone with this kind of screen today. People lose their minds. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even some of the, I of course grew up a fair bit after this time, but I remember some of the early LCDs with all the shadowing, the ghosting. It was awful. It was
yes.
genuinely almost unusable. It was bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 40 years later. But
Oh,
it was definitely better than carrying around a CRT phone, a phone that'd probably be like this thick. And if you drop it, you get the whole vacuum thing.
I'm sure some crazy scientist invented one. Oh, that's like the whole Fallout idea, right? They have this
More or less, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Fallout
None of our,
clock. This
yeah,
thing from Fallout.
yeah. I think that's vacuum, yeah. You really don't want to break that.
Nah. All right, so asteroids. So that's called asteroids, right?
No, that was Space War. Asteroids
Space
was
War.
a bit later.
So Space War was your inspiration for, well, Space War. That's the name of your project as well.
Mark II, yeah.
Mark II, all right.
And I just added, the central planet that attracts you, and basically another planet rotating around just for added difficulty.
That's pretty cool. And I'm not sure if you can listen to the music.
It's fine. It's just a video game soundtrack, but I don't actually hear anything.
It's a banger.
Yeah, it's R-Type free music.
And then you created Pongtail, right?
You're right, Pongtail. That was my first semester, first programming module. Just your basic Windows command line program, basically. And our professor told us, just as a final project in the semester, create a game, and that's what I ended up with. Pongtail. It was just originally a normal Pong clone, then I got bored working on it, so I spiced it up a little.
Mm-hmm. So what did you did to spice it up?
Well, Undertale references, because I was playing Undertale at the time. Right? There's even more if you go to the end of the video. And you could also save your score. You could load your score, all that, wherever the hell you want to save your score in Pongtail.
Oh fuck.
Right, that's if you exit the game.
I guess you were having fun a little bit.
Yeah, I had fun with this.
That's cool. I like the retro style.
Yeah, it's your basic command line stuff. But cool. Fundamentally it's just Pong, of course, nothing that exciting.
I remember, I think when I was a kid, I used to go to my mom's work, and she had those Macintosh, the colorful ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I'd love to go there because I used to just play. I don't know how it's called anymore, like Brick Wall.
Oh, Breakout or
Breakout, yeah.
Breakout, yeah. That's another classic.
Okay, I guess I won't find it now.
No.
Yeah, it's an old school game, but I used to spend hours in this.
Yeah, me too. I actually didn't grow up with proper consoles for a while because my parents didn't like video games, so they just. What did we have? We had like that. We had a V-Smile, if you know that thing. Like that thing was awful. It was a children education entertainment sort of console. So you had all these games that were basically just math questions, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Not good. Actually, some of those games were actually pretty fun, good. but they compare nothing. Yeah, that. Oh boy, yeah. That's what we had for the longest time, for like until I was 6 years old, and then we had one of those SpongeBob bootleg game consoles. That's the other big thing. Yeah, it's just search for like SpongeBob game console.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. That was a thing.
No way. Come on.
There
Dude,
it is. First one. The first one. This
Oh my god, this is so pornographic, man.
it is. And the games on it were fucking awful. There was I remember there's this labyrinth game in it that I just spent hours on trying to beat it. It was impossible. Straight up. There's a screenshot from that labyrinth game in the middle there, the green looking screenshot. No, down a couple lines. Down. That was the other. That was a breakout clone. Down. One more, and then to the right. That one. Yeah. That was bad. That was really bad. It was awfully designed. It was barely coherent. And of course, the connection, the AV connection was terrible. So you basically couldn't see anything.
Those are the best games. Come on.
Yeah, the ones where you can't even fucking discern what's on the screen. That's great. That's a cool layer of difficulty just on top. That's a ton of fun. I mean, it was fun for me back then. I mean, I was a child. I didn't have high standards. I still don't. So yeah, that's how it got started. And then at some point we got our DSs. That's what we stuck with because our parents really didn't want to get us a Wii, even though we begged for it constantly, and just so we had our Nintendo DSs. And I was the only one who took good care of his DS. I remember my sister, my little sister, whenever she got hold of a DS, one time my sister, I love her very much. If she somehow watches this episode, I love you.
But
she gets very, very upset when she plays a game and doesn't immediately win. So there was this one time where she was playing New Super Mario Brothers for the DS, and she got so angry she just punched in the fucking screen. It was a like launch day original blue and black like thick DS launch day ones, beautiful, still in great condition, and she just smashed the fucking thing. Oh, my heart just broke that day. That was very sad.
I know a lot of gamers like that. Don't you worry.
I never was like that.
Change.
Yeah, some people are like that. Whenever I just get upset, I usually start cursing a lot more than I do usually. And then if it goes beyond that, I just turn off the game and go to bed and just cry for like 2 hours.
I had that recently with The Last of Us. I decided to play The Last of Us, the remake. I think they just named it The Last of Us Part 1.
Right.
And I was like, oh man, I love this game. I played so much on the PlayStation 4, and now there's a remake. I'm gonna play it on the grounded mode, the hardest one, and because I can't, I deserve it because I'm a fan, and man,
you're a gamer.
I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
André, it was the worst decision of my life. I think I spent 3 months playing the game, and it was not worth it.
I'm
not playing like difficult in the hardest difficulty ever again.
Yeah, I tried with some games. It's fine, like Half-Life. Playing Half-Life at high difficulty, that's fine. Games like that, there's some games that generally get really fun if you play them a lot and play them on hard difficulty. But there's the one game that always stands out at the top of me for having the worst hard mode ever is Cave Story. No idea if you've ever played Cave Story.
No.
I named it as one of my top games. It's a platformer, and when Nicholas acquired it and added a difficulty selector, they added a hard difficulty, and the hard difficulty is just you have 3 lives for the entire game, so basically everything kills you in 1 hit. That's not fun. That's not, especially if you want to. There's multiple endings to the game, and if you want to get the best ending, there's a really, really, really difficult stage. It's seriously one of the hardest things I've ever played through in my entire life. Especially if you can get, like, it's Metroidvania bits, you can get life upgrades. If you don't get all life upgrades, and if you don't select your proper guns, you're basically screwed, and you're never gonna get through that. And you actually get a second upgrade for that stage, so you get 6 lives. That's still almost always just 1 hit, because obviously the damage scales over the game. I don't know who this difficulty mode is intended for. I love that game. I've played so much of the game. I've played all the CSE2 stuff, all the mods, the remakes. I've played so much of that game. I've gotten to hell once, So basically the final stage in that difficulty mode, it was torture. And then once I got to hell, I decided, okay, might as well finish it. I never did. I I tried like for 2 weeks in a row, just seriously putting in like 3 hours a day or more than that at some. I never did. It's impossible, straight up. Especially because there's this one section in hell in the last level where there's just random boulders falling from the top. It's completely unpredictable. You get hit once, that's that. Game over.
Mm-hmm.
Cool difficulty mode. Seriously.
Yeah. I mean, you said yourself you love making decisions that you regret.
I spent so much fucking time on that. Even just getting to hell was. I make some really bad decisions sometimes.
I guess there's a fine line, like between making a game challenging and so hard that it's just unpleasant. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a fine line. Yeah, yeah.
Especially when you have like, I mean, gaming is all about the element of random, right? And with random, it gets very difficult. Just this because you as a player need to somehow influence that random. But let's say, for example, in a shooter, if your gun has random bullet spread, and your bullet decides to not hit that enemy, and so he hits you back with perfect accuracy just by chance, and you're dead. That's that's not fun. And that's why actually I really appreciate just the challenges of game design. Just trying to make that fun. It can be very, very difficult, really, depending on the type of game you have. But there's a lot of challenges involved with that.
There is, yeah, and I would say it's even harder when you work on a long project, because when you're working on a long project and you're a game designer, it can happen that what was fun 6 months ago, it's not fun for you anymore.
So
Now,
you want to
right?
talk about Skull and Bones, I hear?
I'm not saying that.
No, but I understand what you mean. Yeah, because your taste changed during development, and especially if you play a lot of your own game, you just eventually get bored of it because
I
you've
think
seen
yeah,
everything, and
yeah.
then, but then, yeah, it's also very hard to just as a developer put yourself in the position of someone in the position of a gamer who now at launch day sees your game for the first time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that was one of the first thing that was said to me when I got to work on Railway Empire 2. Just we want your feedback now. You're the most valuable people we have right now because you've never seen this game and you can be as honest as you want. We know we have a lot of because this was back in September. We know we have a lot of problems in the game right now. You just play through the tutorials. Tell us what's wrong. What did we miss? Right. And in that sense, I hope a lot of companies do that because that's really valuable. That's
Yeah.
it gets hard during development to just
Well, luckily we're not game designers. I'm an artist and you're a programmer. That's
yeah.
up
I
to
mean,
Jonas.
it's part of my study. It's up to
Yeah.
Jonas for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah. So how long is your study? It's like 4 years.
It's 7 semesters in total, so 3.5 years. It's actually
And
pretty short.
how long are you in this process?
I'm now at semester 5, so only one more year, then I'm done.
All right. And your
Or I
internship?
have a bachelor, right? And then I could potentially get a master, even here at the same college. But I'll probably get a master, even though I really, really don't want to. But
Just don't get
I'm
it.
done with. I'm done. Nah. But everyone I've talked to says I really should. I
Who,
know.
like the
My
university
parents,
professor?
everyone, my professors, my parents, even Daniel back at Gaming Minds, everyone. And I think I agree, but I'm just so done with school. I'm really done with school.
Take a break. Take like 6 months. I don't know. I'm not right now. I'm like just giving random advice, right? Have you thought about maybe taking like a short break and then going back?
I'm considering it'd have to be a year-long break because I don't want to join during the second semester of
Okay,
that
okay.
master's studies. I'm considering it really because especially now that I've actually worked for half a year, working is actually gratifying. It can be fun. and you actually get rewarded for your stuff.
And your name's gonna be on the credits. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Great,
it's
isn't
pretty
it?
cool. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. So then do you have plans after the university? Like let's say you finish the 3.5 years, 7 semesters, then maybe you're gonna do the masters. Let's say you do the masters. Do you plan to get a job in a game company or maybe create your own game company? Have you thought about that?
I have a lot of plans. I have a lot of plans at once. I have plans that are mutually exclusive. It's completely random what I'm gonna do by the end of it. It all depends on how this next year is gonna go. I told you I have a lot of projects in my back pipe,
Yeah,
a lot of stuff I want to do, but the question is just, am I gonna do it?
you can do
Well,
it.
this is my first time just publicly appearing on the internet, just talking my mind, something I feared doing for more or less a decade now. Though I'm glad I didn't start streaming when I wanted to back when I was like 12, 13. I would have been an awful kid on the internet. I would have been the biggest lol cow ever. Seriously.
Come on, guy, Andre.
No, you don't know 13-year-old me. 13-year-old me was a fucking dickhead. I
First
would
of
have
all-
punched 13. No, I would have punched 13-year-old me. No, that fucking guy deserves a fucking punch in the nose. 13-year-old me was a fucking asshole. Fuck that kid.
Okay,
But-
what was so bad about
He
when
was
you were
he was the
13?
biggest. He was the fucking biggest edgelord on the planet. He was fucking Shadow the Hedgehog in human form. He was he was awful. I was an awful kid. I was a not kind kid.
You need to go to the gym, man.
I need to go to a psychologist.
So, but anyway, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I'm very grateful that your first appearance in
Thank
the
you for
internet
being
is
alive. I know. Yeah, yeah.
it's been a BruCast, amazing episode number 7 of BruCast.
No, I'm really glad for you just, forcing me in front of a camera. Like I said, sometimes that's why I like school at times. I like school because there's people forcing me to do stuff, and especially with ADD and all that stuff, it can be difficult. It's just, my brain likes doing nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing.
Andre, ADD or not, you're fun to be around. I enjoy your company. I remember at work, one day you brought your Steam Deck. I was so impressed with it, and you even allowed me to play it a little bit. So
Just for 2 minutes, but
just for and then you slapped me into the face.
yeah, I told you, how dare you? That's my Steam Deck. Get your own.
Are you still playing it a lot?
Somewhat. The thing with the Steam Deck is, you can see my bed. It's right there. And so it's a medium-sized trip from my bed to my PC. And then there's kind of not that much incentive to just play in my bed. There are times when I do it, and especially, or the really cool thing about the Steam Deck is that it really runs everything, except for multiplayer games, but I don't play those. And it's so really getting to play everything, and you can even do mod stuff, all that stuff works. And doing that, just, having it in your bed, of course, doesn't work with every game. I wouldn't want to play like strategy games on that. Even though it has the trackpads, and the trackpads are really cool, that's just not what it's built for.
What kind of modding you can do on the Steam Deck?
Basically everything. So the Steam Workshop stuff works perfectly, of course, but you can even do all the external file changing stuff you do on Windows, because it's basically, it installs the games like you would on Windows. So if you have like mods on the Nexus or whatever, you can just download the files, paste them in, and that all still works. It's just really cool.
That's amazing, man. That's really impressive machine that Steam released. No, sorry, Valve, right?
Valve, Valve. Yeah. I mean, that's one of my big things with consoles. I'm a big fan of retro consoles. I just recently got a PS1 for the first time. But that's
one?
The original. I've got I got the original one. I put a mod chip in it as well, so I can play US games, because I don't like PAL games. Because I don't know. Do you know the difference between NTSC and PAL? All that stuff.
Oh yeah. I have a funny story about it, but go ahead. I tell you.
Right, I'll explain for those viewers who don't know. So NTSC and PAL are basically two different standards on how you display images for your TV program or whatever. And PAL runs at 50 hertz, NTSC runs at 60 hertz. That's the biggest difference. There's some other color space, screen size differences, but those don't matter. The biggest one is the frame rate. A lot of games were developed in NTSC regions, and when they were ported over to PAL, the developers basically said, okay, that's fine, just release it like it is. And so you have games like running 12% slower, just on PAL consoles, because all the game code was time or frame rate dependent, and just they run slower. Or you have examples like the first Super Mario Brothers on the NES, which for some reason the music runs faster. No idea why it does that, but the music just constantly tries to give you a heart attack.
Just the music?
Just the music. Everything else is no. The gameplay is fine. The music is sped up and the animations are slowed down. So when you run your like World 1-2, where you have this animation of Mario going down the pipe, if you know what I mean, that one slowed down for some reason. It's wild. And the counter at the end that counts down your remaining time and adds it to your points, that one slowed down as well, as you get that fun screeching sound for like 2 or 3 seconds longer. Especially right during those old days, the ports were just insane. They didn't give a shit about releasing out, and it was the same for like PAL games ported to NTSC. There are some NTSC games that are just unplayable because they were developed at 50 hertz, and at 60 hertz they just break. And that's not fun. That's all my consoles. You can't see them back there, but I have a ton of retro consoles, and I made an effort to just find a way to get them to 60 hertz. Like for the Mega Drive, you can just install 2 switches basically. At the back, you can just cross to there are like 2 different pads or 4 different pads next to this, and depending on whether they were connected or not, that determined if the console was running at 50 or 60 hertz, and if it was Japan or outside of Japan. So you can just basically install 2 switches to do it. Or for like the N64, I got a Japanese one that I also could install an RGB mod into, so I could get a better signal out of it, stuff like that. And that's a lot of effort, a lot of unnecessary effort, in my opinion. And you also can't collect PAL games, of course, in my opinion, because, I mean, they look good on your shelf, but I'm not someone who just buys stuff to put it on a shelf. I want to play it. And yeah, most PAL ports are just awful. That was like up to the N64 and PS1 era. Then it gets better. And the Saturn as well. The Saturn actually has mostly good ports.
What's get better?
They don't break down. They don't mess with the gameplay, because the biggest example, in my opinion, is the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega Drive, Sonic the Hedgehog 1. The music runs slow, everything runs slow, the entire gameplay. And so the game changes completely, because it plays completely differently if you're just running it slower. And in my opinion, it makes it completely unplayable. And it's being a retro gamer in if you actually want to play on those consoles instead of emulator, it's actually a lot more effort here in the EU.
Mm-hmm. So, and NTSC is for America, right?
It's America, right? And Japan has its own standards. It's NTSCJ, but it's basically the same thing. Everyone had different, because what does Brazil have? They have like PAL 60, I think.
No. It's NTSC.
They
like
also have
US,
okay,
yeah,
right? But there's also someone also uses PAL 60. I don't know who, but PAL 60 apparently also exists. It's that's some fun stuff you got to get into if you want to go into retro gaming.
And why is that? Why do we have all those differences?
Well, basically, the story is the Americans created the standard, and then the Europeans looked at that standard and decided, yeah, that's shit. We're gonna do our own thing, because the color accuracy on NTSC was actually really bad back in the day. I'm talking like the 50s, 60s, because they didn't handle their colors correctly. So you had a lot of color deviations. And us Europeans also said, okay, we want a bigger screen size, so we created PAL, which runs slower but allows for better accuracy and larger screens. Back then it was just movies and all that stuff, so it didn't really matter. And then came consoles and computers, and suddenly everything just broke down.
André, the quality of the call is a little bit bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's a little bit like robotic.
I think it's getting better now.
It looks better.
Okay, good. Whew.
All right. So here in Europe, we have. Do we still do those things? Like the companies still have those differentiations, or it's something from the past?
That's a good question. I think PAL 60 is standard now. That's supported, and every TV we have comes with NTSC. So that's not an issue. So you can run American content through your TV. So I can like plug these American consoles or Japanese consoles in, no problem. That was a problem beforehand too,
Yeah.
but not anymore. And I think more and more devices just move to NTSC because there's basically no difference. But it's a big headache if you want to get into like console gaming, that old stuff, retro stuff. It's really not fun.
No. So I have a funny story about that. I was born in Brazil, but soon after I moved to France, right?
Right?
So I had my Brazilian or American, let's say the same model, right, from NTSC, Nintendo 64. And then when I moved to France, I was like, I'm bringing a Nintendo, come on. Of course.
Yeah.
And then I started buying, I started buying games. I discovered eBay back then. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I had like some money that my mom was giving me for lunch. I was just, no, I'm gonna save it. I need to buy new games for my Nintendo, and I saved, and it was like, okay, now it's time. I'm gonna buy the new. It wasn't new at the time, but I wanted for my collection the James Bond. Game.
GoldenEye.
GoldenEye.
Yeah,
I played so many
that game
hours.
is so kick-ass. Yeah, seriously, that game's awesome.
It's amazing. And
Yeah.
I wanted for myself because I used just to play it at my friend's house.
Right.
So first thing, as I am independent grown up, I have my lunch money. I have my Nintendo 64. I discovered eBay. I don't know how many years I was, how old I was. But I was like, okay, it's time. And then I bought it. I bought it on eBay. It took like 2 weeks to arrive, and I was like,
Wow.
like eating my fingernails, waiting anxiously about it. And when it arrived, the first thing I tried to do was to put it on my console, of course, and it didn't fit. Like the cartridge would not even go in the slot.
Yep.
I was like, oh, fuck. This man sold me a fake cartridge. How dare he? And then the first thing I went to the internet and started, dude, what's wrong? What did you sell me? This is wrong. Like, of course, I started blaming the guy. Like, so stupid. And then he explained, no, I mean, this is original. He proved me that it was original. I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with the cartridge. There's something wrong.
Right.
There's something else wrong. And then I opened, like, I took a flashlight and looked into the slot of the Nintendo 64 and noticed that there were some, like, things preventing the cartridge to go in. Like, they actually modified the cartridge shape. So it doesn't go in. So my first idea is, okay, I'm gonna cut off
Right.
I'm gonna cut off the cartridge and make a different shape so it can fit in, and spend, like, I don't know, one entire night with this kitchen knife shaping 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 the cartridge so it could fit in. And then it finally worked. Like it went in, but nothing happened, of course.
Yeah.
Even though, so I was like, and then we started researching about it. I was so frustrated. And then I discovered amazing universe of Paul and NTSC, and dude, it's just a headache, right? For gaming.
It's bad, yeah. The region locking especially, yeah. And it's just so annoying.
I think Nintendo 3DS doesn't have it.
The Switch doesn't have region locking. I think the 3DS still did. I'm not sure. The 3DS had a different thing though, because the 3DS for some reason introduced a system to detect those DS clone cartridges, or those 501 cartridges.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and general, not just that. They actually had a system to detect fake cartridges. So my half brother was actually the one who first bought a DS for my big sister. That's how the first DS landed in this family. And he bought the most bootleg version of New Super Mario Brothers I've ever seen. the case is completely square with like rough edges, and the plastic is just more or less falling off, like the plastic covering. It ran back then, but it doesn't run now. Right, stuff like that. Also reminds me of the time, your story about the N64 cartridge reminds me of the good old time when we had RDS and we tried just ramming Game Boy Color games into the cartridge slot. Because the DS had a Game Boy Advance port at the bottom, right? But it wouldn't read Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. So we actually had this. Yeah. For some reason, it didn't do that. Actually, I know why. Because the Game Boy Advance actually has like two different, not two different main boards, but like two CPUs, I think, to route. Basically, the Game Boy Advance has another Game Boy Color built in. That's actually how they solved that. So the Game Boy Advance doesn't emulate that stuff because it doesn't really have the hardware. You can emulate some Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, but not all of them. So they actually just had parts of the Game Boy Color in there as a separate module that could read Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. And they threw that out with the DS, so it couldn't read Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. But back in my, because I grew up in our village's small school, it was like we had 4 classes with like 20 people each, so 80 people. Really small school, but we always had the school sale once a year. And there was this guy just selling pristine copies of Pokemon games back in the day. Like a pristine copy. That was like 2011, 2012. A pristine copy of Pokemon Emerald. Boxed, perfect condition. The first time I saw that, I was really into Pokemon. I think I played Heart Gold or Soul Silver came around at the time. So that was my first one that I started with. And I saw these games, but I didn't have any money. So I just cried as long as it took for like 2 hours for my mother to buy that game. And then she did. Opened the box up, no game inside. That was cool.
Who was that? Who was this person? A guy from school?
A guy just from the local village. But I told him then, okay, there's no game. And then he got it. And it was the manual all in perfect shape. The box, because the Game Boy Advance games had like these carton boxes. They weren't plastic. Of course, over the years, I ripped that up because I was a stupid child. But yeah, but they also sold like, I think Pokemon Crystal I bought at one point. And I also really wanted to play that game, tried putting it in a cartridge slot, wouldn't work, got really angry. And I lost it. Which, I mean, seriously, but he was selling them for like $20 back in the day. Just imagine that.
But with no cartridge, that's an over expensive box, right?
Yeah, he just left it at home. Like he actually just said, "Oh, oops, I forgot that. I'll be right back." And I think he just rode back home on his bike, like up a mountain, back down, and like 20 minutes later he came. Oh, here's a game.
So it was not a scam. It's just
no, it was luckily it wasn't a scam. No, but the battery was almost empty because those Pokemon games still had the battery thing.
I remember I used to play Pokemon Sapphire on the GBA.
Sapphire, yeah.
Man, I don't know. I have like other copies of Pokemon, but for some reason, Pokemon Sapphire would just delete my save every now and then. It was so infuriating.
Oh, okay. That shouldn't be a battery problem because I think the Crystal Gold and Silver were the last ones that used the battery backup save. Sapphire should actually run without a battery, just because it had this timing system, if you remember. And if the battery ran out, the only thing that happened is that it couldn't keep track of time. So that might just be either a bootleg cartridge or a broken cartridge.
Andre, I'm very interested on the other consoles that you modded as well, but I'd like to take a quick bathroom break. Is that okay?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, guys, we're going to be back in very shortly.
Okay.
All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen.
Should have turned that into an advertisement break. That's why I need sponsors, Bruno. That would have been the perfect time for Raid Shadow Legends ad. You could have had me do it. I can do the voice. Raid Shadow Legends.
Please, do you know anyone who works there? I would love to get their contact.
I
Please,
think
rate,
that's all. I think that's all it took. You just saying that. They reach out to everyone. I
please
think
reach
you're
out,
in the
man.
money now. Would you actually advertise Raid Shadow Legends? Do we have no morals, Bruno? Are you that bad of a person?
I am.
I'm disappointed. I'm gonna have to leave the stream now.
Do you know
I
how
don't-
much
I
I
don't
spend?
wanna-
Do you know how much I spend on this wall? I need some sponsors, man.
Okay, you need to do a triple shift on your podcast. You need to do a home improvement podcast. You need to have this one, the gaming one. You need to have an art podcast. You're gonna
All of
Lex
them.
Friedman the shit out of this. You're gonna have
Oh.
fucking 5 podcasts simultaneously from now on.
Did you see that Lex? He actually stopped doing podcasts.
He did?
Yeah,
Really?
I think so.
Because I just saw his episode with Tim Dodd the other day.
Well, I don't know what I heard it, but I heard it somewhere that he would just focus on other endeavors or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Really? Okay. Well, he was in Ukraine for a time there. I think he
Was
didn't
he?
do podcasts during that time, but yeah. But I think he's doing them now. I only recently started watching Lex Friedman. It's funny too because I started watching like one week before a party with Daniel, where I got shit faced drunk and you suddenly assaulted me and said, "Andre, you're gonna come to my podcast, right?" And then you abused poor old drunk me into saying yes. That's how
my
it happened,
technique.
right?
That's my technique. I get every guest drunk. And then
Yeah.
I
don't remember how
roofie
it
them.
happened. The only thing I remember from that evening is singing Uptown Funk with you back in the car as we broke back.
Oh, that was so fun. Yeah.
I didn't even know I knew that song, but apparently I did.
All right. So you told me that you modded your PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
How crazy are you, man? It's a PlayStation 1. This is worth so much money.
No, PlayStation
No.
1's not worth that. $50.
No, come on. It's a PlayStation. It's like classic.
Yeah. No, it's not that classic. There were a lot of PlayStations out there. If you go on eBay, I'm pretty sure $50 is the standard price. And you get like a controller with it. Maybe even
right.
some cables.
Alright.
Yeah.
I'm over.
No, Bruno, I'm not. If you want it, okay, wait, we're going to turn this into Andre's show and tell for a second, okay? You want to know about bad purchasing decisions? Give me a second.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Here it comes.
Okay. Do you know what this thing is? I'm gonna...
Could you move it?
Wait, let me...
Give me a second. I have no idea.
You have no idea, right? Maybe someone out there in the audience has an idea, but that was a TurboGrafx 16 of a CD-ROM 2 on the back. So wait, let me attach it real quick. Pop that out. That was like the original console. This tiny thing here.
This is the
And
original console.
that's the TurboGrafx 16. That one's from Japan. Yeah, that one's from Japan, and it was a huge deal in Japan back in the day. After you had like the Famicom, the first Nintendo console over there, the TurboGrafx or Core Engine, I don't remember. That console has like 15 different names, and I don't know why. They gave it a different name in each region for some reason. But the TurboGrafx became huge in Japan because it was the first proper 16-bit console, the first console that had like you could play arcade games on in decently arcade-like quality. It became huge. And I just, a couple of days ago, for some godforsaken reason, decided to buy that thing. And that thing's expensive. So I spent like $200 on the thing. And the CD-ROM 2 doesn't work all that well. I'm pretty sure the laser is dying.
So there's a version with CD and a version
Right.
with cartridge?
The original, they had like this Hue cards, they call them. It's, I don't see a picture of them. No, there they are. Yeah, the Hue cards. They're really weird in design, but they're basically just like your average cartridge game that you could plug in and it worked that way. And then later on, they had the disc system. And then they also had what did they call it? The consoles had such weird names. They also got a sequel.
It's it's
Hypergraphics.
Japan, man. Everything's weird in Japan.
Yeah, but I mean, that was just NEC, really. The company behind that, they completely messed up the marketing of that thing. That console could have been huge because it was before the Mega Drive, or the Genesis, as it's called in the US, the big Sega console. It was before that even, or around about the same time. And they just completely messed up their marketing. They didn't market it at all in the US. They still tried to launch it there, and it didn't sold anything, basically. But it's such a cool console, especially it's got, you can pretty easily mod it to get RGB out of that thing, so decently good signal quality, and some of those games are just awesome. And the sound of it, everything, it's such a cool console. But it's very few people know about it. It's also a single player console. It only has a single control port. So it's the perfect loner console, if you will. It's such a cool thing. And for some reason, a couple weeks ago, I just decided to buy one for like $200, and I'm still waiting for an AliExpress order with one of those bootleg EverDrive Hue card things, because buying those games here is impossible. There's just no way. There's no way to just. Well, you can buy them, but I'm not that rich. I'm not Jeff Bezos rich. Not yet. We'll see how that goes.
Not yet, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's funny how I look at it. I never heard about this console before, so that's very interesting. But it's funny how looking at it, it just screams 80s, you know? It's just like, you know exactly from which era it is.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
And it really, like I said, it's a cool thing, especially because the controller, if you look at it, if you want to put the focus on my screen.
Oh, yeah, 1 second. Give me 1 second.
One of the coolest things, it has these auto fire buttons, which is really cool because there are a lot of arcade ports on the game, on the console. So they just decided to put auto fire buttons on it.
Isn't that
on an
cheating?
official pad. Yeah, but they just decided. I mean, arcade games were designed to just suck as much money out of your pocket as possible. So they just decided, okay, let's give our player a fair chance. And that's cool. I mean, so much of the console just speaks of attention to detail. All of that, it's really cool.
How have you heard about this console?
I just played a lot of retro games back, or on emulators, everything. I'm really interested in that. And of course, I'm not like your average retro YouTuber, just has this elaborate console display in the background of his videos, and then just doesn't even have the consoles plugged in. I actually like to play them. So I also, whenever I make a purchasing decisions, I usually plan out, okay, what can I do with this? Can I mod it? What sort of accessories can I buy? All of that stuff. And yeah, again, for some reason, I decided to buy this thing, and now the laser on the CD-ROM, it needs adjustments because it's too weak, which that's fine. Okay, no problem. But all of the screws on the outside, they're stripped. They're completely round. I can't get in. Help. I have no idea how I'm going to get into that thing. And that's going to be fun. That's going to be my next big project, I guess.
That's fun, man.
Yeah, it is fun. And especially because that thing, that was one of the earliest CD drive consoles. So the CD drive, it's not all that great. It doesn't even secure your CD properly. So if you tilt the console, it just breaks down. It also has this really weird way of loading games. So it's not like the PlayStation that just loads one thing after another into your game and then loads it completely. And if you have a read error, it just falls apart and basically tells you to restart the game. This thing doesn't do that. This thing loads stuff as you're playing, and if it has a read error, it just tries again. So if you have a bad CD or bad laser in it, let's say you play a game and you hit a game over, and if it if it has a read error while loading the code for game over stuff, it just tries again, and tries again until it gets it right. Because they just
it should, right? Because
like it should, but sometimes you just get stuck on the game over screen for like 3 minutes because the laser, it sucks. But it's a cool way of doing it, really. I don't think you could do it with modern games. Well, okay, modern games are basically installed to hard drive anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think none of those are still read from the CD drive properly.
Man,
But it's cool
CDs.
that they just decided, okay, our CD drive, it's awful, it sucks, so we're gonna build error handling into it. I mean, that's cool.
That's very interesting.
That is, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's why I like these more obscure consoles. I also tried getting into microcomputers a while ago, like C64 and Sinclair
Mhm.
stuff, all of that. But I don't have that kind of money. And a lot of that stuff needs a lot of refurbishment.
Mhm. Do you know this guy on YouTube? I forgot the name of his channel. Oh, but he's so good. He's like into exactly those type of things, like retro PC.
There are a lot of those YouTube
There's a lot of
channels.
those. I think it's called 8-bit something. I forgot, guys. I'm sorry.
There's the 8-bit guy.
Yeah,
That's
this one.
Yeah,
This one.
okay, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know him? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I watched some of his stuff and like
Man.
LGR and Metal Jesus Rocks, I think one of them's called. Stuff like that, yeah. Because there are a lot of people interested in that stuff, and there are some type of retro gamers, like I said, that basically just have their consoles plugged out, and they bought those consoles just to show off, and they play all their stuff on emulators, and they add nothing new. I mean, back in the day, it actually, my whole English journey, the reason I learned English, one of the first English YouTube channels I watched was AVGN back in the day.
The angry video
Angry
game
video
nerd.
game nerd. Yeah,
he's so
that's how it's done.
entertaining. I love him.
To this day, he's still great. Of course, his style of content has changed a bit over the years, but that was such an entertaining channel, and he really started my love for retro games. And of course, it's not easy to do that stuff in the EU, but that's how it started.
But he also has this huge wall. Like,
yeah,
I think it looks sick. If they play it or not, it looks sick.
It does look sick, but sometimes I really think, well, okay, well, it's a double-sided sword. On one hand, I think, okay, what if those games were in the hands of people who play them? On the other hand, I think, okay, if you look at some of those games on eBay, I have no idea what they do to their cartridges. Sometimes you think those cartridges just went through a nuclear war, or someone took them with them to Vietnam or something. How do cartridges just completely end up that way? I have no idea.
I think they just throw in the toilet, just for fun.
Apparently,
they scrub it and then they puke on it.
Yeah. Okay, I have a fun story about that because I bought a GameCube a couple years ago too. First time I bought it, I always wanted a GameCube, and so a couple of years.
Andre, no, come on, no. I'm sorry, I have to stop. I'm sorry, but I had to stop. Just a couple of years ago, the greatest console of all time.
I've wanted a GameCube for so long, but my parents, like I said, they didn't want to buy me a Wii. Then at some point they said, okay, here's a Wii U, back when it was like $2 because Nintendo just wanted to get rid of their stuff.
You're serious?
Yeah.
I
got
so
the fucking
hard right
Wii.
now.
I mean, I played a lot of Wii at friends' houses, but I never got one of my own. And then a couple years back, I bought a GameCube, and then I wanted to get the what's it called, the Game Boy player. The thing you screw at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of offers. Most of them were like $25 on eBay. Then I saw this offer for $20, and I was like, okay, well, there's one big scratch just across it, but that's fine because it goes at the bottom. Who cares? There's just one big scratch, and it was like $20 and free shipping, so I saved like $8 compared to the other deals. So I buy the thing, it arrives here, I screw it onto the bottom, everything looks good. The guy said it was tested and working, okay. So I plug everything in, and then I try putting a Game Boy Advance game in there, and it just goes. I pull it back out. I look in the cartridge slot, it's completely rusted. Everything, the entire RF shield, the entire port, everything was just rusted. How does that happen? The main board was completely fine. It was completely untouched, but the RF shield was just completely rusted, like it was buried in the ground for the last 10 years.
I told you, they throw it in the toilet, they flush it out, they
But the main board was perfect. It worked perfectly fine. So I just
it work?
It worked perfectly. So I just took it apart. I drenched it in vinegar and then just went on it with a metal file and some sandpaper and just got the rust off. And now it still works perfectly. It's perfectly fine. But how does that happen?
I don't know, man. Some people just don't take care of it. They
Yeah,
don't
but
care.
apparently, yeah. I mean, I was like that too. Like I said, my Pokemon Emerald copy didn't do too well.
So did the vinegar work and now you can play it fine?
Yeah, but we only have like your basic home vinegar. What you're supposed to do is buy like a concentrated vinegar, and then the acid helps take the rust off. But we didn't have that, so I just took the basic vinegar. It helped a little bit, but I basically just had to file everything down, which took so fucking long. I was sitting there for like 8 hours just getting onto every bit of surface.
It's worth it. It's a piece of history.
Yeah, it was worth it. I mean, now it's working perfectly fine, and it actually looks cool because the rust leaves behind like these black spots. So if you look in the cartridge slot, it now has this cool striped black pattern. I don't think it was worth saving $8 though, just sitting there for hours, just grinding every part of the RF shield.
Yeah, but come on, how could you have known? You could have.
Yeah,
not
that
have
was
known.
if I send it back, I definitely would have won the case because he at no picture that he sent did he show off the cartridge board. That was insane, but it worked. I mean, I still saved $8 in the end. I wasted 8 hours, but I saved $8. My time apparently isn't all that valuable.
As a kid, I had a dream. I had a dream. I wanted to have the GameCube. I had the GameCube, but I
Yeah.
also wanted to have this GBA cartridge reader. Like
Yeah.
I never got a opportunity to have one of those. But my
Yeah.
dream was the combo: the GameCube, the GBA thing, and then one of those portable screens.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I could play GBA game anywhere. And then just because I could, because I had the GBA, but I was like, no,
Yeah.
this is awesome. I can make
Yeah.
this transformer out of my GameCube and I can bring it anywhere. Oh man, I never was able to do it because I never got the other accessories, but just the possibility was so enticing.
You could have been one of those top tier gamers who play WarioWare Tilted on their GameCube.
What?
So you tilt the whole GameCube.
Yeah, so that's me as a kid. That's what I wanted to do.
You were so close.
Andre, I think if we start talking about retro gaming, we can easily.
I'm
talk
fine
about
with
it.
that. We can draw this out for another 3 hours. I'm totally good.
Yeah, that's what I'm fearing. I wanted to also talk about some other stuff that you mentioned to me.
All right. Yeah.
You told me that you created a whole sci-fi universe.
Oh God.
Do you want to talk about it?
Kinda. Well, the whole thing is I guess we should actually start the ADD stuff early because that kind of.
Do you want to talk about? Okay, let's talk about
All right, because
ADD then.
Yeah, I mentioned it a couple of times before.
Let's talk about the ADD. Yeah.
I have ADD and it's not fun. Especially because I wasn't diagnosed until like a year ago. Almost, yeah, a year ago. And ADD is a weird sickness because especially if you look at the list of symptoms, it's stuff that the average person has every day, like procrastination, all that. And to the average person, it looks like it's more or less a made up thing because it's just it's what everyone has, but ADD people, they have it to the nth degree. My best example for this is always Latin. Like I said, I wanted to learn Latin, but I just couldn't. Because we had this book with just words, a German word, Latin word, and this tiny booklet, and I read that every night, just looking at the translations, looking at my words, learning this because our teachers also had this questioning at the beginning of every class where they ask, okay, what words have you recently learned, some grammar stuff. I really tried learning that, but I couldn't go 2 words without my mind just drifting off to somewhere completely different. And that's the go-to example. That's why Because the average person, even if he doesn't want to learn something, there's usually some way to do it. But with ADD, that becomes nearly impossible. And of course, that drags you down, because the first teacher that I had in Latin basically told me, "Oh, Andre, he's basically useless. We don't want him. Just send him down. He apparently isn't good enough for the gymnasium, for the highest tier. Just send him down a tier. He'll be better kept there." And my grades were perfectly fine everywhere else, but I just couldn't learn it, especially stuff that I didn't really want to learn. I just couldn't. And that drags you down, or even doing stuff that you want to do becomes extremely hard. Like I said, I tried learning drawing and all that sort of stuff. And at the first sign of resistance, your brain basically goes, "Nope, don't want to do that. Let's do something different. Even if it's just walking around your room for like 3 hours and just having conversations with yourself. Just your brain searches for every bit of distraction, every bit of escapism." And I've had that stuff for like pretty much since childhood. And I was just recently diagnosed with it because, especially during Corona, I was just sitting in my room doing nothing. And that drags you down if you do it like I did it at that point, 1.5 years. So that was like 2021, middle of 2021. If you really just sit in your room and do nothing, that drags you down a lot, especially if you're like me and you want to do stuff. And then it just, at some point, just by sheer fucking coincidence, it's some random chat room, or some online thing. I looked at some forum. Someone posted a meme basically that showed off some of the symptoms of ADD, and just reading through the symptoms, I was like, okay, wow, that's basically a perfect description of me. Then I went to my mother, said, okay, I might need to get checked out. She, of course, my mother was very resistant about that whole stuff, especially because there was a time in 8th grade where the teachers actually said, okay, we might want to send Andre to a psychologist, because they apparently knew they saw some of the symptoms and decided to send me to a psychologist. And both me and my parents, they took it as a personal attack. We basically said, no, they're just trying to do me in, basically, especially because I ran into conflicts with my teachers a lot. I was, like I said, I was an asshole as a kid. And yeah, then I finally decided to get diagnosed. And one of the requirements for you to get a proper diagnosis is you need to have shown symptoms since the early times of your life. And one of the requirements we have in Germany is that you show your end of year reports for your first 4 grades, so 1st to 4th grade. Because here in Germany, the teachers write a lot about your social behavior, your social development, all that stuff in those reports. And when my psychologist looked at those, he just said, wow, that's just template ADD here. Because I was erratic, I was aggressive, I had problems with learning, I had all that sort of stuff. And the diagnosis went pretty quickly then, and they put me on meds. I'm on Ritalin now, which is, it's not an everything cure, but it definitely helps. And ever since then, like I said, I've changed a lot over the last year or so. Running that shit undiagnosed for 20 years, that was rough. There were some really, really rough and honestly dark times in my life before that, because I couldn't get anything done. My entire life was just preoccupied with school, because if I focused on anything else, I was just fail school, because my attention would just slip. That was rough, right? And then I got diagnosed, and everything changed. Suddenly I could concentrate on stuff. I could do stuff that I wanted to do. Just an entirely different world. So I've changed over the last a lot over the last year. Did a lot of soul searching too, I guess. Just figuring out what do I want to do now that I can actually do stuff, and all of that, right? And that's my ADD story. And because I said that we probably want to do this before the sci-fi story, because it actually they connect. Because with ADD, another problem a lot of people report is that they just can't sleep. Because what you end up doing is you start these conversations in your head. Like, I've done this with this podcast too. We have like 10 more hours of podcast just in my mind, me talking to you. That's what a lot of ADD people do, because they just start imagining conversations in their head with other people. And if you do that at night, you're not going to sleep, period. Because you usually get into such competitive arguments that you're too preoccupied to sleep, basically. And that's something I suffer too from. And if you only get like 3-4 hours of sleep every night, that can be rough. And one way I actually found that really, really helped me personally, just beating that, was just imagining stuff, creating my own stories, own characters, own world. And that's how my sci-fi universe got started. Just me trying to find something that didn't take, I guess, as much brain power every night. And turns out if you do that every night for like an hour, you get a lot of content out of it. And so I've just been writing down this stuff for like 5-6 years now. Even before I knew I had ADD, I of course found this method and it worked really well. And I have a huge just list of concepts, of stories, of characters just written down, and I've not released anything yet because I'm not even sure how I want to release it. For the longest time, I said I want to release it as a podcast, but then I want to release it as a book, and then I want to release it as maybe a video game, and then maybe something else, because there's still a good bit of ADD left in me, just constantly switching between doing this, doing that. But yeah, that's how it started. That's the entire story. Not the funnest topic, I know. Especially in school. I had a lot of problems in school, just period. And it would have been, if I got diagnosed in 8th grade, or the symptoms were there earlier, I could have get diagnosed in like 3rd or 4th grade. But I toughed it out somehow, and here I am, and I'm feeling great. Honestly, the last year has been awesome. Best time of my life. Despite everything, the geopolitical stuff happening in the background, I don't give a shit anymore. It's been fun. So much fun. Here I am. I still haven't released any of that sci-fi stuff, but we can talk about it if you want.
Oh man, that's amazing. Your ADD story is very, very interesting. So thanks to meme.
Thanks to a fucking meme, of course.
Thanks to a fucking meme, yeah.
That's how it had to happen. Yeah. Oh, that's so wild. But yeah, that was. I mean, to be fair, I was already kind of thinking about what could possibly be wrong with me at that point. I was just searching for the right mental illness, if you will, because I knew something wasn't going right. A year before I figured out, quote unquote, I wasn't diagnosed, but before I figured out I had ADD, or I found this meme, I was in a really dark spot. Because again, I was a shut-in. I was really, really socially awkward. I couldn't get out of my room. I was constantly I had huge anxiety with school, just constant sheer terror of failing, all that stuff. I was in a really, really dark spot for a good while there. And since then, I was again, of course, I mean, as a kid, I knew the concept of ADD, but back in school, we made fun of those people. We said, oh, look at these hyperactive people. What's wrong with him? He can't even sit still for 2 minutes. And I'm not like that. Because for the longest time, people thought it was ADHD, and that was the only thing. But H, of course, standing for hyperactivity, that isn't the only thing. There are different kinds of it. And I'm not hyperactive, not really. But I still have the other symptoms. And that's the mental stuff is what gets you. That can really mess you up. I mean, 20 years was bad enough, especially, like I said, some really awful teachers that I had. That can mess you up. But if it goes even longer, I've read stories of people that went like 40, 50 years undiagnosed. That's rough. I mean, it shapes you as a person, of course, because I wouldn't even call it mental illness. It's more like a different type of brain, because it's theorized that this whole ADD developed as back when we were hunters, and it was actually beneficial because as a hunter you could change your focus more quickly. You weren't hyper focused on one thing, but instead you could constantly switch around. But if you're well, in modern times, it's not all that useful. And it's also not useful when you want to actually, do something, when you have big ambitions, like I have sometimes, if you actually want to get something done.
So the difference between ADD and ADHD is just the hyperactivity.
Right. That's the only thing. Yeah.
So which are the symptoms from ADD? So you told us already about the hyperactivity in your mind, right? You have a lot of self-talk.
Right. Self-talk, constant shift of focus. What a lot of people have, and what I also have, is, I think it's called RSD. It's rejection something, where basically every defeat and every no you receive from other people, or whenever something doesn't go well, you take it really personal. That's something I saw, especially when I went into art, because turns out art is very difficult, and you're gonna suck at art if you're gonna start off. So I just looked at my drawings and went, wow, I'm an awful human being. More or less, yeah. That's how it went. Yeah, and
come on,
and of
man,
course
don't...
that I know, but it wasn't that extreme, of course, but gets ingrained in your brain, and it's not beneficial to anything. I mean, if you're gonna learn anything, whether it's playing guitar, even playing video games, you're gonna suck at the beginning. Period. And that's
but let's say, how are you sure it's ADD? Maybe you're just you were socially awkward and had some anxiety problems, and you approach like your therapist or I'm not sure the correct term, the doctor, and already brought this ADD idea, and because maybe it's not ADD. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm just...
right. It is a very difficult thing to diagnose, even to this day.
Exactly. Yeah.
The two big things that there used to be three things. So the three methods of verification back a couple of years ago even were, first of all, your first 4 grades.
All right.
Those reports, because you don't get ADD at some point during your life. You usually have it from the beginning. It's mostly, in most cases, it's genetic. So you need to have it from the beginning. And the second thing is when you take stuff like Ritalin, because ADD is a dopamine deficiency in your brain. So your receptors, basically, when you do an activity, they don't generate enough dopamine. And that's why you constantly switch focus, because your brain's basically constantly bored. And if you take Ritalin, what it does, it doesn't add dopamine to your system, but it prevents the reuptake of dopamine into the receptors. So dopamine stays around longer. And if that works, that usually is the confirmation. And for a while, they also had brain scans, but they don't do that anymore. And that was the confirmation.
Since when are you taking so 1 year, you told us?
I was diagnosed in, let me see. Right, that's another fun thing in Germany here, because we, of course, have a huge psychologist deficiency. We don't nearly have enough of those. So back in August or so of 2021, I said I wanted to get myself checked. Then I got an appointment in October. And then it took until January for me to actually be properly diagnosed and for me to start my treatment. And since then, since January of last year, I've been taking it.
How many? So it's once per day?
Twice.
Per day.
Yeah, I get the extended stuff. It lasts for about 4 hours.
How much it costs?
It's like $12, I think. It's not much, and you get I get 72 pills, I think, in one. So that's at the very least 72 pills, and you don't get to take it every day. It also doesn't make you addicted, which I'm very glad about.
Oh, so you don't take it every day? You just take it whenever the symptoms are
usually I take it whenever I want to be productive or when I want to do stuff.
All right.
Whenever I feel like I have a big project ahead of me, or like I have school or something. Because you don't really need it if you're just, out around or being social or that stuff. That usually works.
Do you need a doctor involved? I'm sorry, I'm like questioning it.
It's fine. It's fine.
I don't know anything about the subject, so I'm very
Yeah.
interested. Do you need a doctor invoice? How it's called again? It's not invoice, the correct term. Like
It's a
notice, doctor
prescription.
note. This prescription. Do you need a
Yeah.
prescription for it?
Yeah, I do. So every like 1 or 2 months, I basically go there, and he also only does a basic checkup. He asks, okay, how are you doing? Do we need to change the dosage and whatever? And of course, Ritalin it's a divisive subject, and for good reason, because I mean it's a mental drug, and that can get very dangerous very quickly. It really does. I mean, even if you look at the what's it called, the letter that comes with it, that lists all the potential side effects of the drug. Um, if your brain is built a certain way, you can get schizophrenia and stuff from that drug, straight up. Especially during children. I've heard several stories of children just starting to talk to like trash bins or something. Yeah, that's a very difficult thing. But luckily for me, the treatment worked perfectly, pretty much from the first day, and from then on. And you feel the difference immediately. I mean, the first day was insane. The first day, I didn't know how to use the drug yet, because it's not a drug that makes you efficient or productive. It basically just reinforces whatever you're doing. So let's say you're watching YouTube videos, you take it, well, now you're more efficient at watching YouTube videos. Good job. So there's a lot of self-training involved. And like I said, it just inhibits the dopamine reuptake by your receptors. So you get more reward, basically. But you need to do something that's rewarding. And that's what makes the drug so cool, in my opinion, because it actually reinforces good patterns. It reinforces basically self-improvement and all that, all the rewarding activities you can do in your life. And I mean, like I said before I was just sitting in my room all day, either doing stuff for school, wasting way too much time on that because I just couldn't learn, or watching YouTube videos. That was my life for several years in a row, barely going out, just right, because my brain was completely deficient in all that. And YouTube is a really good fucking drug. If you're just looking for dopamine, there it is, right? And it's built that way, of course. It's specifically engineered to do that, right? To get you to view stuff for as long as possible. Same with advertisements, all that stuff. And well, if you're one of those unfortunate people that's more or less built to fall for that, it can be difficult.
Yeah. Hey, I have never seen you talking to trash bin at the office, so it's working.
Yeah, I didn't develop schizophrenia. That's the last thing that needed to fucking happen in my life. Andre decides to finally get better, and he gets schizophrenia. That's
You're
something
good,
that
man.
would fit perfectly into my life.
You're fine. Everything's good. But I'm gonna tell you, I think there's a lot of people with ADD out there do not know about it. Like this whole YouTube rabbit hole that you told me about. I mean, it's so easy to fall into a rabbit hole. I think I don't want to be honest about it, but I spend more hours than I should just researching about aliens on YouTube, one video after the other, and it's so engaging. They tell you so many conspiracy theories, and I just want to dive in and learn all about it.
Yeah, and look at that beautiful sidebar with another 50 videos that are even better than the one you're currently watching. You want to stick around on the platform for another 3 hours, don't you? Who cares?
And then it's 3 a.m. I was like, dude, what am I doing for my life?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And I mean, that's what happens to people who don't get fucked over by their brain. And
No.
it's rough. It's rough, definitely.
So you were born with it, right?
Yeah,
or it's something that you developed later in life.
You're born as the most up-to-date research says it's in like 80% of all cases it's genetic. So you're born with it, but you only develop symptoms. No, you have symptoms from the beginning of your life, but because school only starts later on, that's usually where you start noticing the symptoms. But there is a small subset of people that develop it through brain trauma. That could also be me, because back when I was like 8 years old, I fell from a bridge and suffered severe brain trauma.
What?
Yep.
You fell
Want
out
to
of a
hear about
bridge?
that? Yep. Want to hear that story? That's another fun one.
I'm not sure, man.
No, it's not. Okay, it's not that extreme. But my father, he's a huge biker, and so
Okay.
we had this. He didn't want to get. He's a mountain biker, and he didn't want to just shove me up on a mountain, let me drive down from the beginning. So they had this small practice park at the bottom. And one of the practice obstacles they had was just a small bridge over one of those like I don't know what you call it in English, but these water paths that the water takes down from the mountain, but there's only water there when it rains. Else it's just dry and basically a small ravine.
It's like a river, but only when it
Dried out
rains.
river. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And it was only like 2 meters, but at the side of the bridge they didn't have a proper fence around the bridge, but just these small wooden blocks running around the side of it. They were the perfect height for my pedals. For my bike pedal. So I drove over the bridge, got too close to the side, and my pedal just hit the wooden block. And I stopped. I think I also had a reversing brake back on my bike back then, so I just pulled over. I had a helmet. Yeah, I had a helmet on too, but the rock hit me basically back here, directly under the helmet. And I suffered severe brain trauma and brain bleeding or inner bleeding, which is really, really not good. Inner bleeding can kill you very quickly. And the best part is that my father looked at me and said, I basically said, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm dizzy. I want to puke." And he said, "Oh, come on. It's not that bad." So I kept complaining. He eventually just said, "Okay, we're going to go home," put me in the back of the car, and we drove home. And I just immediately fell asleep in the back, which is really not a good thing to happen.
You
My
passed
father,
out, basically.
I fell asleep. I just fell asleep
Alright.
because, like brain trauma, that just happens. You just fall asleep. My father got a bit concerned then and drove me home, got me out of the car, got me into the living room. I immediately fell asleep again on the couch, and then he said, "Oh fuck." He immediately then drove me to like a children's doctor. He just took one look at me and said, "Okay, hospital immediately now." And then we drove to emergency, whatever it's called, and then I spent like several weeks in there recovering. So that's another way I might have gotten ADD. We're unsure about that.
Maybe activate it, like your superpower.
It got worse, probably. Yeah.
Oh, you have
Some people, when they get hit in the back of the head, they get like a 200 IQ and they can see numbers with colors and all that. And I just got ADD. Fuck yeah. That's fun. That's
you have
awesome.
stories to tell. You have stories, man.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, I have several near-death experiences like that. Want to hear another one?
I'm not sure.
There's another great one.
It feels like kind of you're Jesus, you're like surviving all of those things.
Yeah, God really fucking hates me. I noticed that, but he's yet to kill me. He didn't get me yet. The other story was, I think, 10th or 9th grade when we had a school trip to an opera. And we drove on one of those double-decker buses.
All right.
So and I was sitting...
The British bus.
Yeah, basically. And I was sitting at the upper level, right at the back, right over the engine. So we drove with that bus around, just driving towards the opera. And at some point we stopped. And I noticed a bit of a smell. It smelled like burnt rubber. So I thought, okay, looks like someone braked too hard, whatever. So we continued driving shortly after that. And then the bus just randomly stopped. No one had any idea why. And like I said, I was sitting right at the back of it looking forward. And it was like a four-seater with a table between. And I was making some sort of joke, and I just saw my friend sitting opposite of me, so looking backwards. I saw his expression within a few seconds go from like to... And then I just turned around, looked to the side, and there was just a huge swath of smoke. Black and dark smoke. And I just said, "Oh fuck, the bus is burning." Everyone got up and just walked towards the exit. And then, of course, we were stuck within the stairs because the smartest kid of us all was right at the top, and he tried to get the back door open. The bus was on fire. The bus was on fucking fire, and he tried to open the back door. So eventually, like after 30 seconds, he realized, okay, that's not going to work. So we walked out the back or out the front, And by that time, some kids were already just breaking apart the windows and jumping out, basically. And several kids on the way down hit the side thing. You know, on the highways, that metal side thing.
Yeah, this can kill you.
That was a fun evening.
Did someone die? No, I'm sorry.
No. It wasn't that bad.
What caused the fire in the first place? Just bad bus? Just old
bus, yeah. Basically, some wiring caught fire, and then the whole thing. That's a great thing to happen on a fucking school trip, right?
Yeah,
Luckily, we were already old. I mean, imagine if that happened like fifth graders.
I mean, if no one got injured, it's kind of
I mean,
fun story,
like
right?
3 kids had smoke poisoning and some bruises from hitting.
Yeah.
That was not a fun night. Just
maybe the smoke caused you ADD. Yeah.
Smoke did it. And of course, recently I had my fun story about getting hit by a fucking car while I was driving to work on my bike.
Yeah, I remember. We were there. I mean, at the office.
Yeah,
I remember
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the police didn't even tell you. So eventually, I just told Anton per Discord.
Hey, André, you're alive. That means that Jesus or God or whatever exists, they have a plan for you. You have like a mission that you haven't accomplished yet. And
apparently, yeah.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Must be. Either that or he's really, really bad at killing me.
Or you have like 9 lives as like a cat.
Yeah, like a cat. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Then I'm starting to run out of those. I'm 3 down.
Dude.
Yeah, my life. Sometimes, I mean,
either you're very lucky or you're very unlucky. I'm not sure which one yet.
No, I also have no idea. But whatever. I'm alive. I'm here. I'm good. Kinda. Mostly.
Going back to ADD stuff. So I know that some people with autism, some of them, not all of them, because it's a spectrum, right? Some of them kind of like it and they embrace it and they consider it like I would say joke like in a lighter way, like it's superpower, because when they want to, they can focus really well. Like there's the downside, but there's also the upside.
Yeah.
Would you say that there's an upside to ADHD? Yeah, I'm completely like I don't know anything about subject, so
there is one big upside, and because you're constantly daydreaming, people with ADD are generally considered to be very, very creative, and that's cool. And I've heard a lot of a good couple of Silicon Valley people actually have ADD, and you know, they go onto the stage and have these big talks about how ADD is their superpower and all that, and about how ADD is the best thing to ever happen to them in their life. You know what I say to those people? Fuck you. No, ADD comes with too many downsides for me to consider it a superpower. Yeah, I mean, there is some cool stuff, definitely, if you can channel it, and preferably if you're diagnosed early. It's cool. You can do some cool stuff with that, but you gotta grow up in the right environment, right? You gotta have people and parents and teachers look out for you, just
who understand it, right? Because I don't think everyone understands it. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's say even if I was diagnosed, I would have had a lot of teachers who wouldn't have changed their way of teaching just because I had it. They wouldn't have cared, right? And again, I also, it's not like I want to like get treated like a special person, like some cast out, some weirdo that needs special treatment for everything. No, that's fine. But there's some just some things you need to watch out for. Some you know, like ADD people tend to be temperamental. A lot of times they just, you know, you do something to upset them, and sometimes they just go after you, not physically, but just often verbally. And you know,
so that's my clue to assign you less bugs, right?
Yes, please. That's what this entire talk was about. Please, I'm drowning in bugs, Bruno. I know where you live. Stop it. But yeah, I mean, It's no superpower. None of this is even autism. I mean, autism has some definite downsides. I
Of
know a
course.
couple of people with it, and just talking to them, sometimes it's funny, but you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
difficult for them if they can't take social cues and that stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, they can learn to live it. They can learn that stuff too. Just because it's harder, it's not something that you can't learn. Same with ADD, you can learn to be productive, to be focused, all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of effort, a lot of effort. You got to stay concentrated. You got to stay focused, and preferably you have some sort of help, whether it's a psychologist or even medicine, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Are you also going to the psychologist
Just for my checkup,
just for your
because
checkup? All right.
I don't even know. I, especially because of all that ADHD stuff, I've kind of developed a method of just trying to figure out things out on my own. I love figuring stuff out on my own, whether it's programming or whatever else. Just having me do it, and sometimes I feel like just having a person there to assist me. Sometimes having a person there to assist me is great, like this podcast. Bruno, you said you're gonna do it, so let's do it. That's great. Thank you for that, Bruno. Seriously, just
Oh,
thank you for
thank
inviting
you,
me.
man. Thank you, my brother. So
Yeah,
thanks to
no,
you, I have the podcast. I mean, I cannot do it alone. So thank you.
yeah, no, seriously, yeah. But sometimes I mean, it also has to do with. Usually, I'm not all that good about talking about myself. Just recently, we had this like as part of my studies. You probably know I had to go back to Kempten for like a couple of weeks, and we had this social bullshit whatever training. Worst thing ever. We learned like peaceful conversation, whatever, non-violent conversation, that sort of thing. Awful, hate it. And just sticking me in a room for like 8 hours is the worst thing you could do to a person with ADD. But
Hmm.
she also had this thing of like just talk about yourself for 7 minutes. I had like 3 minutes of stuff, and then I panicked.
You're doing a great job right now. You know that?
Apparently, yeah,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
because I'm drunk.
What? Really?
I mean, no, I'm just drinking
You
sparkling
don't.
water
You
here.
don't. You don't look like.
Mm.
Okay. All right. So, when you know that like those situations are coming, like intensely social situations, can't you like prepare for it and take the Ritalin, right? Ritalin beforehand.
Yeah, Ritalin is kind of a double-edged sword there as well, because
Okay.
it tends to make you hyper focused. So
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
social stuff is like you're going from this topic to this topic to this topic. So especially at work, I took it as well as work, and I just noticed sometimes I was just too focused on my programming task at hand to talk to other people. Sometimes it helps, especially at the beginning. Like I said, a year and a half ago, I was awful at talking to other people. Genuinely awful. I couldn't. I just couldn't. And I've practiced it a lot now. At the beginning, I needed it just to, especially when you have a person like that you've known your whole life, and
Mm-hmm.
they only know you with ADD, and
Mm-hmm.
so they of course develop these social patterns. Just they know, okay, he sometimes gets aggressive or whatever, so I've gotta talk about simple stuff with him. And then just going out the first time, having taken the medicine, and just going more or less, I'm a different person now. You can act differently. You don't have to treat me like a child. I, that won't happen anymore. I won't. Like I said, I'm a different person. You can act differently now. We can have normal conversations, I guess. So at the beginning it helped, but now not so much.
Um, would you have any tips for anyone who might be thinking they have ADD or any? Yeah.
Yeah, that's difficult as well, because personally I still don't know about this whole psychology thing, because within my family we had also a case where someone went to a psychologist, and the psychologist was just awful. You can have that, just like teachers. You can have great teachers and you can have awful teachers. Same with psychologists. And if you get a bad psychologist, that can fuck you up seriously.
Oh, so you're still not sure that you
No,
do
not
have it?
it's not me. No, that was another person, but just
Okay.
another person. That's why. So That's why I didn't want to go to a psychologist
All
originally,
right. Okay.
because a bad psychologist can really mess with you. It can do a
They're
lot of
people, right?
damage.
They're people. They also
Yeah,
commit
they're people. They
mistakes.
have their own. They can make mistakes. They have their own set of beliefs, their own ambitions. Psychologists aren't unfailable. They're not the be all end all. They're not your god. They can make mistakes, and so you have to treat that thing that way. And if I look at some of the stuff that's happening in the U.S. with where pretty much everyone's diagnosed with depression and ADD and all that stuff, I also don't think that's right. Especially because in the U.S. it's not a requirement for you to have ADD your entire life. So I have these stories that have of people of like school kids that are given, especially because Ritalin isn't the only drug you can have to treat ADD in the US. You can also have stuff like what's it called? It's I forgot the name, but it's more like meth because it doesn't inhibit the reuptake of dopamine, but it just adds dopamine in your brain, which is really bad, or it can be really bad depending on what you do with it, because it's like methamphetamine basically.
Yeah, and this like it tears off, right? Your dopamine sensors, they can after a
Yeah,
while tear off. That's the correct term. They just
yeah,
get
they just get
used.
dull. Yeah, they get
Dull,
used
yeah.
to the increased dopamine uptake, and then you get used to it as well. Yeah, so you constantly have to up your dosage, and that comes with other side effects and all that. So you have to watch out about it as well. And so I'm
And then it becomes a addiction.
exactly now. Luckily, we that stuff isn't prescribed in Germany, as far as I know. But you got to watch out, and that isn't to deter anyone from seriously considering going to a psychologist. If you think you have the symptoms, now again, with gets really difficult with ADD because the symptoms are too just generic. I want to say because everyone's not concentrated at some times. Everyone procrastinates. That's everyday stuff. But if you're really like only getting 3 hours of sleep every night because you're just you know up talking with yourself basically or doing stuff like that, then certainly get yourself diagnosed. And even I mean if the I guess you could just get yourself checked out. The, if it's an ADD treatment, really nothing bad can happen. If you go to a psychologist for depression, that's when things can go wrong, really wrong. Depending, especially because some of those depression drugs are they're really nasty stuff if they're used incorrectly. And of course, whenever you hand a human a drug, there's the potential that he just abuses it. Ritalin, for example, it's a famous student drug. Just students taking. I would never advise anyone to take that stuff if they don't have ADD, because, like I said, it can mess you up. It can just straight up kill you. There's like a 1 in 1,000 chance that it just straight up kills you.
Yeah, but you told us that you need a prescription. So those
You need
people,
a prescription,
those
yeah,
students are getting it from the black market.
from the black market or someone who has ADD.
Yeah. All
Just
right.
handing it out like, okay, we have a test upcoming here, just take a couple of pills, whatever. They treat it nonchalantly, and no, that stuff's dangerous. There's a reason it's prescribed. Why not everyone can have it? Why, even though it has definite positive effects, even on normal people. But like I said, yeah, you got to watch out at some points, and you got to be honest with yourself. I think that's the most important thing, right? If you've lived your entire life perfectly fine, and now suddenly you're having difficulties with your studies, that doesn't mean you have ADD, right? If you've been a perfectly social person your entire life, you've had no problems taking up new skills, all that. Just be honest with yourself, I guess, is the most important advice. And I had to
Go
I
ahead.
had to learn that same. Sorry, I had to learn the same lesson as well, because for me it was more or less the opposite. I constantly wanted to be normal. I wanted to be the most normal kid in the class, the one that teachers never complained about. I wanted to be the nice kid. And at some point, I just had to admit, okay, something isn't going well. Something's not right. And yeah, I guess honesty is the lesson here. Just self-evaluating.
Yeah,
You can
and
do that.
courage, right? You need courage
Yeah.
as well to admit it and go
Oh, yeah.
after a therapist. So the therapist
Yeah.
is the only way, or you can also consult your family doctor.
I actually went for my family doctor. So for me, it was, yeah, my mother, then family doctor, family doctor. Of course, usually your family doctor doesn't specialize on that stuff. So all he can do is say, okay, yeah, those symptoms kind of check out. I can send you to a psychologist. But usually you don't get much more of that out of your family doctor, because unless your family doctor for some reason is a psychologist.
That's not the thing, right? I don't think.
I don't think so. No.
And of course, watch memes. Memes, of course. You need
Watch
to
memes. Apparently, that's
watch
the biggest
memes.
lesson. That's
That's the
get
biggest
yourself
lesson.
educated through memes. Definitely, that apparently that helps. Oh man,
Oh, and André, it's been a ride. So,
it
um,
really has.
I don't know what else to ask about ADD. Do you like to bring some other information?
There's not much really. I think we've covered all the bases. I mean, I have a very very short journey with ADD so far. Like I said, it's only been
Mm.
a year now, a bit over a year, and life has changed a lot over a year. Seriously. I mean, like I said, if you get the right treatment, you get diagnosed. Same with depression. If everything checks out, you have depression, you get treatment, life can suddenly improve 1,000-fold. And
Mm.
yeah, you gotta. I don't know. I mean, especially in psychology, the big thing is that everyone's different, right?
Mhm.
Depression for one person is completely different than depression for another person, right?
Yeah.
Depression resulting from like stress at work or bad friends is a completely different type of depression when you've lost like your whole family in an accident or something.
Yeah, of course.
But that still falls under the same umbrella, and many times it's the same treatment. So, like I said, that's why my recommendation is honesty at that point. Just be honest to yourself and be open to it. I mean, if you're avoiding, if you have ADD and you're procrastinating going to a psychologist, then my recommendation is do it. Just get yourself checked out. The worst thing he can say is, "No, I don't think you have it, but maybe you have something different. Maybe you can get that checked out." Right?
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned earlier about the constant self-talk, and
Yeah.
that's something that I struggled a lot for many years. I'm always like analyzing everything and going in my head through all the chores that I need to do that day. And since last year, I committed to two big changes last year.
Uh-huh.
Like last year was what, 2 months ago. Two big changes is that I would stop using my cell phone as my calendar, as my planner.
Right.
That's the first one. And the second one is I would try to exercise, because if you like it or not, it makes a huge difference in your mental like anxiety in general.
Oh yeah.
And I started researching about it. There's this podcast that I like a lot. It's about a guy called Max Lugarev. I'm probably saying his name wrong.
I've heard of him as well. Yeah.
You heard about it? And he was very clear. He said, no matter who you are, exercise is like medicine for the brain. And this phrase stuck with me, like medicine for the brain. And stuck with me for a reason, because I had this impression my whole life, but I never like put it into a phrase, right? I always exercise a little bit, and my mental state would be completely different. I would be relaxed. I would be able to manage everything that I had to manage. Like I would be a completely different person just by lifting some weights in the morning.
Oh yeah.
So
Exercise. Well, the difficult thing with exercise for me is I do it now as well. I think
yeah,
exercise is
yeah,
hugely important, and
all
it
right.
helped me a lot as well. Seriously, especially if you have ADD, possibly ADHD, just getting some of that energy out of the system, hugely important. Really, that helps a lot. The problem with because you often hear exercise being recommended, I think exercise is something that comes naturally to you if you're in a good mind space. because I don't think you can exercise if you're really at the bottom, if you're really doing bad. So I feel almost like it's something that happens automatically if you're
I
if you're
think I
doing good.
think I think it's cyclically. If you exercise, you're in a better space mentally. If you're in a better space mentally, you exercise like a snowball, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I tried it several times as well before I got diagnosed. And ever since I was diagnosed, I've been doing it
Yeah.
religiously, almost at the very least 3 times a week, preferably even more often. Just getting consistency in it, just doing it regularly
Mhm.
and trying to not skip any days. And it helps a lot. It really, really, really does help a lot. Because, I mean, that's what we humans were built for, right? Doing heavy lifting, exercising, all that stuff. You got to do it. It's important. But
Yeah.
like I said, it's not easy to motivate yourself if you're at the bottom. But I mean, if you're doing fine, then start doing it. That's my recommendation. It's not always fun. It's heavy work. Sometimes it even gets annoying. Sometimes you really really don't want to do it, but it helps. It really does help a lot.
It does, and it's not about the looks. Like the look before, when I started exercising like some years ago, I was like, yeah, it's for the looks. I wanna be buffed and look amazing and be the next
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger, I don't know how to say his name. But the older I get, I realize that it's not about the looks at all. That's like a consequence. The biggest the biggest gift of exercising is your mental state. The physical
Definitely.
look is just a consequence, like a bonus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, if you want the proper physical looks, you also got to work a lot more at it. You have to take like proteins and all that. I
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
couple of friends that actually started going all the way in, but I
Aga,
wouldn't do it.
do you know Aga at work?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he
Uh,
wrote in the chat as well. Yeah, he's probably
yeah.
listening right now. He's going Iron Man mode completely on this.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
amazing. Like
yeah,
his motivation is contagious. It's
yeah.
great.
It
Like,
really is. Yeah, he
mhm.
tried talking me into it as well, but it was like the last 2 weeks of my stay here. If I heard it earlier, I probably would have joined, but
Mm,
bad time. Still, yeah, it's like I said, same here. Doing exercise, it's important.
yeah. Are you joining us at the Mudmasters?
I would love to, but it's kind of far away.
Yeah,
It's
it's okay.
five 500 kilometers or whatever.
You can do it.
I
You
mean,
just come running. Come running to
come
prepare.
running. Yeah, okay. I mean, that be a good preparation, sure. I mean, which month is it? Because apparently we're supposed to get the 49 euro train ticket stuff
I think it's in
sometime soon.
June or July.
Okay, I might be able to make that then.
We're gonna put
Oh,
you.
but I have studies in that month still.
You don't have anything. Just come running. Just
Uh, maybe I'll actually join. I'll take a look because it does. I've looked at the website as well. It looks like a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna use the mud to make this.
The war stripes, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You're saying about something about your friends. I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just saying like a lot of my friends have recently gotten into exercise because it's also something you're very unlikely to do when you're still in school. So I mean, with all the schoolwork and then probably once you hit 16, you only want to go out and drink. There's not much time left for sports, but a lot of my friends have just recently picked it up, and all of them are better off for it. Definitely, all of them. Just it also helps with stuff like self confidence and all that. Just
Yeah.
knowing that you can do stuff regularly, especially for me with ADD and all that stuff. I constantly just had this thought in my mind of don't even bother because you're gonna drop it a week later. Which
Come
it
on.
wasn't. No, I'm serious, and it wasn't wrong. But I mean, what are you going to achieve with that mindset? Even if it's something you're really interested in, if you approach something with that mindset, you're not going to get anywhere. Period.
Did your mindset change since you started taking the meds?
100%. Like
What is the new
complete
mindset?
shift. I got to stop taking on new obligations. I'm learning like 15 things at the same time. I got to stop. I mean, all of that, most of that stuff I started when I was still without medication, because I just kept piling stuff in. I did art, then hit some roadblock in art, whether it's perspective, anatomy, whatever. I decided, okay, fuck that, I'm gonna go into writing. So I started writing, and then realized, okay, writing is work as well. Let's do music. Sounds good. Oh fuck, music is work as well. Okay, let's not do music. All right, let's develop a game. And so I still have this backlog of like tons of stuff I wanted to learn at some point.
Yeah, but that's healthy though. That's very healthy. I know some people that I would not say they have ADD, but they have problems for sure.
Thanks, Bruno. Really helping my self confidence here. That's
They
a
do-
great talk we're having.
they no, you said honest is the most important thing. Be
Honest,
honest.
right? Oh, definitely. Thanks for being honest, Bruno. I'm gonna call my psychologist after.
So those people that I won't mention their names, but they do
Right.
have something, and instead of going in a healthy direction, what I would say healthy direction, like taking in new projects, trying to understand what they have, trying to self improve, they just go to the other way, which is addiction. Like they give in. They use drugs, and the drug, it's great when you're using drugs. Are amazing when you're taking the drug. Nothing else matter. All your problems, they're gone. You don't need to deal with anything. You're just there in the space, and it's great, but it tears off, right? And then the problem, the mental problem, the personality disorder, whatever it is, comes back, and they just freak out, and then they go into the addiction. And it's like we talk about the exercise, addictions like a snowball as well. And
Oh yeah,
So-
addiction is a huge problem as well with people with ADD, because it's called self-medication, and especially like marijuana and meth, that sort of stuff. There's a huge precedent for people with ADD just taking, because especially like stuff like methamphetamine. It's funny because if you take it when
It's
you
funny.
have ADD,
that's a great
it's
phrase.
really drug abuse is really
Methamphetamine is
funny, kids.
yeah.
But that's the thing, right? If you take methamphetamine, if you have ADD, you actually don't get like hyped up like all these other people who get calm. You suddenly just sit there concentrated, because suddenly your brain is at a normal level. And that's how a lot of people figure out they have ADD, but also a huge problem, of course, because I mean it's a hugely addictive drug, and once you're starting down the slippery slope there, it's really, really, really difficult to get off. And a lot of people, I mean, that's where it most often fails. A lot of people don't even see it as a problem, right? They're like, oh, I'm not addicted. I'm just doing it like twice a week. Come on. And it also, because it completely suppresses your desire to just work on yourself, try figuring things out, because suddenly you just have this pill or whatever that just magically gives you your dopamine hit that you want.
Yeah. So, congratulations for trying to understand the problem, to not giving in to whatever drug or addiction, and trying to self improve. So,
It's been a tough journey, it really has, and
yeah,
my
but
thoughts are with all those other people that suffer from this bullshit. But apparently, there's a way through it. I'm still not at the end of the tunnel.
You're working through
But
it. No,
I'm trying. Yeah, I'm giving it my best. I really have over the last year. Just getting to talk to people, just being like you, like having this podcast. Like I said, 2 years ago, never. I would have made up the most batshit insane excuse. Oh, sorry, Bruno. I'm in Vietnam now. I can't come. I whatever it would have been. And I've made so many stupid excuses in my life back then. Like I had this one opportunity to go to Dresden, visit a friend there. Dresden is a really cool city. But my brain just said, yeah, you could go there, or you could sit right here at this computer and watch YouTube. And my brain just went, man, there's so many YouTube videos I want to watch. Fuck Dresden. And now, of course, I regret that, obviously. because it would have been such a cool trip, and all my several of my friends went, and they had the best time of their life. They say still to this day. And of course, it's a thing of just fighting your mind. I mean, that's the problem. Not only ADD people suffer from it. Sometimes you just gotta take your mind out of the comfort zone and decide to do stuff that you're not comfortable with. Again, like this podcast, and the memory of this podcast, and maybe, who knows, we'll have some more episodes. I don't know.
You're welcome anytime, man. You're welcome.
Maybe. And I think all of those episodes, or at the very least this one, is going to live in my mind as one of the best days of my life, probably.
Oh my God, I'm honored.
No, I'm serious. Many of my best days of my life have been.
Cheers.
My wine's empty.
I gotta drink.
I have some water still. Yeah. But yeah, before that, it was always school trips and stuff like that. Like another great time in my life I had was when I went to Prague. Don't know if you've ever been to Prague, but it's such
I heard it's amazing.
City.
I heard it's beautiful.
It's
yeah,
fantastic. Such a beautiful city. Great people, just amazing. And I didn't want to go to Prague, but my school said, "Oh, okay, we're gonna have this trip." And it was the most beautiful 4 days of my life. Everything, the city, the people, the food, amazing. And of course, I was there with school, so I had my friends with me. Great, just great. And in situations like that, you have to force yourself to do stuff you're not comfortable with, and in like 99 out of 100 cases, it's gonna turn out great, I think.
Yeah. I two things. First, I saw this meme. Oh man, memes are amazing. Meme called,
You're doing all psychoanalysis through memes now. That's the state of our modern society.
Just fire all the psychologists. They don't need to. Just going to Instagram. Memes.
Yeah.
There's this meme that says. So first thing, there's this meme called fear. What fear means? Face, everything, and rise. Right. So that's that what it means. And I was like, I don't know what it means, but I love it. It makes sense, right? If you face your fears, you're gonna rise. So I think this
exactly
applies.
Yeah. Fear is the mind killer. If I can quote Dune at this point. It's seriously. Yeah, fear is the thing that keeps you down in most cases. Like I said, I was fucking horrified of the prospect of coming onto this podcast with you and just having a chat.
You're rising, and you're the phoenix.
Yeah, I'm definitely the phoenix here. It was the most casual, fun conversation ever. But I was terrified, especially yesterday when you said, "Okay, I said we're gonna do it next week, but actually we're gonna do it tomorrow."
Blame on Sam. Sam bailed on me.
You did this to me. You did have me have a great time.
So that's the first thing, memes, and the second one would be, I'm sure this podcast, whoever hears it will understand ADD better. And if they feel they have any symptoms, and they resonated your message, they will look more into it. So you're also not only improving yourself, but passively. I wouldn't say passively, actually actively helping other people by bringing the message forward. So congratulations, thank you.
Yeah. Of course, I don't want to. That's another stuff with mental illness. Of course, there's this. Once you're diagnosed, once you're on a better path, there's this very. Oftentimes, people just start seeing everything through the lens of their own illness. I've done it as well, because once someone told me, "Okay, I have ADD now," I thought everyone around me had ADD. And I mean, again, especially because ADD has such generic symptoms, you could diagnose everyone with ADD, and if you're a good person and you think, "Oh, this helped me, let's recommend this treatment to all people," right? I don't want to diagnose other people with ADD, but if I can help other people, if you have these symptoms, if some of my bullshit resonates with you, if you're suffering from this thing for a long time, there are clear symptoms here, definitely, and you're in this fight together with me. If you have ADD, dear viewer, it sucks. I know it sucks. It can ruin entire lives of your ear. especially if you're undiagnosed. But there's a way.
But
There's a way out of this stuff.
and you wrote a super universe out of it, right?
Yeah. Now I only got to publish it somehow.
Did you write
Get
the
other
actual
people.
book?
I mean, in terms of word count, I've written like 15 Bibles, I feel like. But no, I've written a lot over the years, especially recently, because I wrote, like I wrote to you in the document, I read Anne Lemett's Bird by Bird, a fantastic book about writing. Don't know if you know it, but I can recommend that book. It's incredibly Anne Lemmet. I hope I pronounced her name right. She's such a good writer, and she has such a direct, on your face uh, type of uh, type of personality, and it shows in her writing. And she was actually before that. I always try to avoid daily commitments, like doing stuff daily, because I always feared it. I always said, okay, you're gonna do it daily for like a week, and then you're gonna stop again. The ADD bullshit. And when I read her book, and she just said straight up, I know you don't want to do it daily. It's gonna suck, but every day sit down 300 words every day, no excuses. Ever since I've read that book, I've done it, and I've added several more daily commitments to that since that, and it's been working out great. You need to do stuff, whether it's art, music, whatever you're doing. Preferably, really got to do it daily, because it's a skill, and you get worse at stuff if you don't do it. Period. Whatever it is. And so I lost my thread. I don't know what we were talking about before the book.
We were talking about ADD, and then
Right, of course.
I brought up that while you're trying to cope with ADD, you start writing a book.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and right. I have written down a lot of stuff. A lot of it is disjointed, and my English has improved over the years a lot. And some of the early stuff is probably barely coherent in English. And the current sci-fi universe has switched several times. So it was a couple different stories at the beginning. It's completely morphed now. But I really need to publish my stuff. I've made the commitment for this year. I've said I'm gonna release. I've made 3 commitments, one of which I've already forgot. But one of them, is to release the first chapter of the book. I'm not gonna publish it. I don't care about publishing. I don't think publishing is even something I want to accomplish, even if I can. So I just want to like release it in. Oh, I remember all 3 of them. Okay, so release some of my writing. Just put it out there on like one of those fanfic sites, wherever, even Pastebin. That's fine. I don't care. Another one is I wanted to start streaming. I've been wanting to start streaming since I was 12 or 13, like I said, and I actually want to do it this year, especially now that Anton from work has started streaming. I wanna pick that up as well, because I've been dreaming about doing that a long time. Of course, now the perfect time is more or less past. Now everyone's streaming, but that's fine as well. I mean,
Doesn't
less
matter.
eyes
You
on
need
me,
to
I
do
guess.
it.
Yeah,
You need to do it for you, not for
exactly.
other people.
Just having fun with it and all that. And
Yeah.
the third commitment is I actually want to release the first page of my webcomic, because that's the original idea. I wanted to go
Do you
with.
have a web comic?
I wanted to. I've planned a webcomic for like 3 years now.
Oh, you're
But
planning it. Okay.
planning. No, I don't have a webcomic. No. I've drawn the first page like 3 times now, and every time it turned out awful, because that was back in like 2019, 2020, before I was diagnosed. And I have this awful habit of in art just jumping ahead. Like, you're an artist, right? You know it's step by step. You draw forms, you put those forms into perspective. You got to learn your forms. You got to learn perspective. You got to learn anatomy, all that stuff. It all builds on top of each other.
It's not a problem anymore. You don't need to
It's
learn
not
that.
okay. We've got AI stuff. Yeah. Okay. But
Perspective. just use AI, man. It's the new thing. All
Yeah, of
artists,
course.
they don't need to paint anymore. You just write whatever you want on Mid Journey, and it's done. Maybe you need to overpaint it a little bit, but that's it.
I mean, sure. But if you're a traditional artist, like I want to be, then it's a step by step process, right?
Right. Okay.
And my brain has this, still has it to this day, but I'm slowly getting the hang of it, of just saying, "Oh, I know how to draw boxes. Let's draw a full human with perfect anatomy. Oh, that human looks like shit. I'm never gonna draw again. Fuck this. And so it's been like
Burn it.
seriously, I've gone through that cycle several times, and now I'm actually sitting down, learning my stuff, learning my forms, learning my perspective, learning my anatomy. Slowly, I still take shortcuts sometimes, but it's getting better. And like I said, I've drawn the first page like 3 times. Every time it's turned out awful because I don't even have a grasp of the basics. And if you don't have a grasp of the basic, it's not going to work out. Period.
Yeah. Talking about the book, I discovered something recently because a friend of mine released the book recently.
Oh,
Yeah. So you can actually just upload it to Amazon, and Amazon,
oh yeah.
they're gonna sell it for you. You don't need like find a place to print it. You don't need to do anything. Just I think there's a website called Amazon Publishing or something like that. You just uploaded whatever story you wrote. They're gonna, I think they probably will check, right? And maybe not, because there's so
They
much
don't.
trash.
They don't.
Yeah,
They
there's so
don't.
much trash.
Have you never gone Amazon fanfic diving or
Fanfic?
self-pub? Okay, this is to any viewer listening to this. This is fucking amazing. You can go on Amazon and you can just. It's difficult to get into the right product page, but
Oops.
okay.
Sorry.
but Amazon has a fuck ton of just awful fanfics, just published as books. And these are like, you can buy them for like $2. They're Kindle only. All of them are awful. A lot of them are porn for some reason. And you can just find an endless fucking arrangement of those if you go diving. You won't probably, you'd have to go up to like page 300 from here to find it. But once you're on that thread, it's insane. There's
How did you got there, man?
I think some YouTuber introduced me to it.
Of
and
course.
It's barely coherent English. Most of them are just fucking Google Translate. Like I said, a lot of them are porn for some reason.
Oh
And
yeah. Look what I
they're
found.
all
Journey
they're
of
all
Revenge Against the Gods, and there's just 2 anime chicks with
and that's how you just need to go
huge
to
boobs.
recommended books from here out. Some
Oh,
of them are
yeah.
completely fucking deranged, but but they're amazing. Especially the covers. They get so there it goes. Yep.
Oh man, I'm gonna get they're gonna block my video. There's okay. Enough.
Probably. Oh yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
should watch out because some of them are actually not safe for work.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but
Oh,
it's
thanks for introducing
yeah.
me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's so much fun. I had an amazing one saved. There's a link at some point, but I don't think I have it anymore.
Look what I found, Andre.
What is it?
Endless whatever drama, gender, bender girls, love, mystery, romance, sci-fi, and slice and slice of life tragedy. That's the title.
That's really good. That's that's high
Dude!
quality. Amazon has absolutely no. That's like Steam back, and Steam still does that. I think Steam still
I
doesn't
still
have a proper.
can't get out of this drama, gender, bender girls, love, mystery, romance, sci-fi, and slice of life tragedy. Dude, what is this?
And, oh yeah, I remember what got me onto these. There's like there's fucking dinosaur porn on there as well.
What?
That's
On
fucking
Amazon?
Yeah, they're fanfics as well. That's how I don't remember what YouTuber that was. That's how he got me started on this. They're completely fucking deranged. I'm trying to look if I still have that link for that one book. They're so good. That's so much fucking fun.
What, dinosaur porn?
Yes. Yeah, dinosaur porn. Yes. It's a chick fucking raptors. Yeah. That's on Amazon.
I want to see.
I'm looking for the link. I pray to God I still have that around somewhere. And the cover is fucking amazing.
Hell yeah.
But I don't think I have it. Oh no, I deleted it. Yeah. Oh shit.
Ah man, you deleted the
Oh, man.
dinosaur porn.
Yeah.
No.
Fuck. Ah. God damn it. Oh, maybe it's on here. Maybe. There's still a chance. Oh, shit. I'm sorry to disappoint, but you can do that stuff yourself. You can go Amazon trash diving. There's some good stuff on there. There's some really excellent, especially the covers. Like I said, sometimes they're schizophrenic doesn't even describe them. They're just a mashup of fucking everything the author found in Google Images.
I found something great. Look at that.
Okay.
Would you wear something like that? Safe, not
and make
toxic.
cosplay. That's good.
All right.
Actually, yeah, I'd wear that. That's still.
What is the weirdest Halloween costume that you ever wore, if you wore any?
I gotta admit, up until recently, I didn't like costumes and wearing costumes.
Even at Halloween, or
Even
you
at
never?
Halloween or
All
Carnival.
right. Okay. Yeah.
But I'm getting there. I'm getting more open, weirder, more demented. Next year, I'm probably gonna go as Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
It's a good starter costume because you just need the afro and small beard and like his coat.
Yeah, especially if you're becoming a webcomic artist. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's
you
all
know,
part of the big plan. It's like pottery, it rhymes.
when I was a kid, I think 5 years old or something, I think that was the weirdest costume that I ever wore. Was I really didn't want to wear it, but my mom forced me. I just have this picture. I have just this picture when I was 5. I'm like super
Okay.
grumpy, like looking at the camera like that, and I'm wearing this the most ridiculous thing ever. Is like this huge fat pumpkin costume. And even had the little hat, and the little hat has this orange circle with the little green sprout coming out of. Oh,
That's great. Yeah, my friend actually had a mushroom costume. Like that black and white black and white spotted mushroom. Red and white, I mean. And just beautiful costume with a white shirt underneath.
mushroom costume. Okay, I think we're just talking about nonsense now.
Yeah, that's part of the pod. I told you, if you're gonna talk with me, that the talk's just gonna go off topic at 140 miles an hour. That's just how it goes, talking with me.
Look,
But I'm glad I got to introduce you to Amazon dumpster diving.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope that becomes a segment of the podcast now. We just find one book for each episode and then you read it together. Just the product page.
Look at this beautiful mushroom costume.
That's great.
All right. Let me stop. Andre, thank you very much, man. It's been a pleasure.
It's been incredible, Bruno. Seriously, thank you. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, and if you ever publish something or you just want to talk again, like you're always invited. Just come
just
back,
hit me up you can ask me every week, basically. Whenever just some guest says, all right, nope, doesn't want to do it, I'll probably be there. I can probably come on.
We keep in touch, André. Thank you very much.
Definitely. Thank you, Bruno, again for inviting me. Thanks for everything. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, for sure. Have a nice evening, man.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And you too, audience. Right?
Of course.
We love our audience. But not the sponsors.
Oops. Sorry, man.
You cut me off. No, I didn't say anything.
All right, André. Take care. Take care, everyone.
You too.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
See ya.